in prison. I develop mechas to break out. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 376. So many people. The virtual world is real enough to simulate anything. Here, you can do anything. But there is one thing that you must not do, and it is also the anti-harassment system that countless people hate. In the virtual world, if there is any misconduct against a woman or a man, the other party can activate the anti-harassment system at any time. At that time, a divine thunder will fall from the sky, split you into ashes, and bring you great pain. At the same time, it will directly kick you offline, and will ban your account, and you will not be able to go online for a short time. Because of this anti-harassment system, many people deliberately induce others to do bad things, and then summon divine thunder to strike others, and they enjoy it. And now, this function has been released. For a while, all the men present felt a heartbeat speeding up, and their blood gushing. On the stage, Zhou Yang could see the reactions of the crowd, and the reactions of the crowd were also within Zhou Yang's expectations. That kind of thing is not a bad thing. Entering the virtual world greatly satisfies the spiritual world of human beings, but that kind of thing is the fundamental impulse of human beings. Before, the conditions did not allow it, and there was no need to open it to avoid any problems. But now the situation is special. We need to let more people indulge in the virtual world and reduce the management pressure of the real world. So Zhou Yang decided to open this function. Of course, necessary precautions are still necessary. It is okay to have a normal relationship, but it is absolutely not allowed to use force. Zhou Yang's expression was serious, and he said, "Release this function does not mean complete release. At that time, supervision will be stricter. Any illegal behavior in reality will never be allowed in the virtual world. Everything must be based on the premise of mutual consent, and once it is illegal, it will be severely punished in reality. After that, the laws of the real world will also take effect in the virtual world, and illegal behaviors in the virtual world will also be sentenced, but at the same time, the law will also protect your property and legal rights in the virtual world." Zhou Yang said it very sternly, but the people present did not listen at all. Anyway, they remembered one thing, that is, they can do shameful things in the virtual world. Zhou Yang waved to everyone and disappeared offline. The aftermath of this press conference has not yet dissipated, especially the opening of the favorability function in the virtual world, which has caused a huge stir. The internet is full of discussions about this matter, and no one even talks about aliens. As for the end of the world, no one cares about it. Everyone is looking forward to this upgrade. At the end of July, amid the heated discussions, the virtual space was upgraded. Everyone received a system prompt. Oh my god, it's upgraded. It's finally upgraded. Lu Mingrong logged into the virtual space in the morning. Lu Mingrong appeared in the main city and found that the people around him became excited at the moment of the system prompt. At the same time, there seemed to be an ambiguous atmosphere in the air. "Beauty, do you want to meet me? I'm very strong in that aspect." A monkey whistled anxiously at the beautiful woman passing by. "Oh, really?" The beautiful woman stopped. The man's eyes lit up, and he stepped forward quickly and said, "Of course it's true." As he said that, the man said anxiously, "Beauty, can I hold your hand?" As he said that, he couldn't wait to hold it. The beauty did not hide, but the next moment the man touched her hand. A divine thunder suddenly fell from the sky and split the man into slag. However, unlike the previous times, when he was struck offline, this time, after being struck by the divine thunder, although his body was charred, he did not go offline. A mighty and handsome policeman appeared out of thin air, glanced at the stunned man, then looked at the beauty, and asked in a stiff tone, "Ms. Liu Giffen, do you want to pursue the illegal behavior of Mr. Chen Zhaoshang for harassing you?" The beauty was stunned for a moment, and then said, "Of course." The police nodded, immediately turned to the man, and said in a cold tone, "Mr. Zhaoshang, your illegal behavior has been recorded, and the criminal facts are confirmed. You will be detained for 15 days. If you have any objections, please appeal to the competent department." Now I will send your punishment results to the relevant law enforcement department. Please go offline immediately and wait for the law enforcement officers to come to your home to accept the punishment. After speaking, the police waved his hand, and without waiting for the man to argue, he kicked him offline directly, and he disappeared in an instant. Luming Grang stared at everything that happened in front of him, and he was dumbfounded. The people around him who were ready to make a move also calmed down instantly at this moment. Damn, so fierce. He was taken away already. 15 days of administrative detention. That's too harsh. I just touched him. It's nothing. In reality, it doesn't matter whether you touched him or did anything else. As long as you have the intention and can prove it, it is 100% harassment and administrative detention. Brother, there is a story behind what you said. Damn, I thought I could be unrestrained after the upgrade, but it's still the same. Unrestrained? How unrestrained do you want? I remember Mr. Zhou said that the supervision will become stricter after the favorability is opened, and it must be willing. Then it's the same as before. Of course it's different. In the past, when the love was deep, we could only meet offline, and there were risks. Now it's different. As long as we are willing, we can do things in this virtual space first. I won't say any more. I'm going to find my wife. Luming Grang shuddered and felt unwell. At this time, the communicator rang. Husband, where are you? Luming Grang came back to his senses, took a deep breath, and replied, wait for me, I'll be there soon. This is Luming Grang's wife in the game. The two have known each other for half a year, and have long confirmed their relationship. Now it is finally open. After Zhou Yang announced the opening of the favorability, the two decided privately that once the favorability is opened, they will do it in the Miracle by the lake of the Pami Sunset Forest, reflecting the sunset. Entering the Miracle game, Luming Grang and his girlfriend met in the main city. Hey, why do I feel that you seem to be different today? Luming Grang said strangely, and found that his girlfriend seemed to be different from usual. A little uglier. The girlfriend's name is Xiaolan, and she said embarrassedly, I adjusted my image before, but after the upgrade today, it seems that I can't modify it. Luming Grang blinked, but didn't care too much. Xiaolan said, then let's go now. Luming Grang hesitated for a while, but still nodded. The two were mainly too far away, otherwise they would have met offline long ago. Arriving at the Sunset Forest, Luming Grang was completely dumbfounded when he saw the bustling crowd by the lake. The spacious lakeside was filled with men and women, so many that they could not squeeze in. From time to time, a divine thunderbolt fell from the sky. So many people. Luming Grang said blankly. Chapter 377 Mars Inspection. Just when Luming Grang was confused, a head suddenly came over. Handsome, do you want a tent? It's very cheap. Luming Grang came back to his senses and found that there were many tents by the lake. The tent in the game will create an independent small space after entering, isolated from the outside world. But when you think of a small tent full of people outside, what interest can you have? And there is a fatal problem. That is, the tent has a health bar and can be broken. If the two are applauding for love and the tent is suddenly broken, it will be funny. Sure enough, someone at the scene thought of this kind of operation and started to attack the tent. Soon the tent was broken and two naked figures were revealed. Let's go. Luming Grang looked at the chaos in the distance and shuddered. Xiaolan nodded and said, let's go to another place. However, the two looked around and found that any place with beautiful scenery had already been occupied by others. After the virtual space was upgraded, the sound of artillery was deafening in major games. After the virtual space was upgraded, the online rate reached its peak. Walking on the street at this time, there will be a feeling of a doomsday wasteland, and there is not even a shadow on the road. Everything is as Zhou Yang expected. The cost of social management has been greatly reduced, and the government can draw more personnel to invest in other links. Virtual warehouses are also delivered to various countries for production. Once a large number of virtual warehouses are offline, a large number of people will stay in the virtual world for a long time, and the management pressure will continue to decline. Zhou Yang has no time to care about these things. He is too busy now. According to Fuchs's statistics, Zhou Yang now manages more than 50 million scientific researchers in the world. This is just pure scientific researchers. If related supporting military enterprises and other high-tech enterprises are counted, this number will double. Of course, Zhou Yang cannot manage everyone specifically. He is only responsible for the overall direction. As for specific research and development, such as a power transmission system, a Class A project team will be opened, and a person in charge will be selected to be directly responsible to Zhou Yang. Under the Class A project team, it will be subdivided and divided into several Class B project teams. There are many power transmission systems on a spacecraft. Even if it is to control the rotation of a turret, a special power transmission system is needed, and the requirements are not low. It must be able to respond to millisecond level signal instructions from the intelligent program at any time. If a turret power transmission system is separated, then under this Class B project group, there will be many Class C project groups, and the entire transmission system will be divided into different research modules, such as the drive shaft, support arm, macro-hydraulic system, etc. for the development of the electric drive system. Each Class C project group is responsible for the research and development and finalization design of a specific project. In this way, any Class A project can be split into dozens or hundreds of Class C projects. Moreover, at the level of Class C project groups, they are generally specialized research institutes from all over the world. A research institute has hundreds or thousands of research and development forces to develop. Sometimes, if the project is too large, it will continue to split and outsource part of the research and development. There are as many as 27 Class A projects. Zhou Yang has to coordinate the overall situation and directly lead them. Specifically, the Class C project groups have reached tens of thousands. Therefore, this time's research and development work is really a collection of the wisdom of all mankind for research and development, and the efficiency is of course amazingly high. Falkman's alien spaceship played a great guiding role. Zhou Yang also got the relevant technical information from the system. At the same time, most of the relevant pre-techniques were also completed. Therefore, the construction of the entire spacecraft was progressing at an astonishingly fast pace. At the same time, following Zhou Yang's previous instructions, design and production work were carried out in parallel. A large number of excellent engineers from northern industries and all over the world were all transferred here. At this moment, outside the research institute, large and small dormitory areas and supporting factories have formed a city of dozens of square kilometers. The lights are bright day and night, and countless materials are constantly transported on the highway next door. A nearby military airport is also constantly taking off and landing transport planes to transport materials. On August 3rd, the star pattern superalloy from the Oma civilization finally completed the industrial design with the unremitting efforts of Zhu Qin's team. A month in advance, when Falkman and his team appeared, some domestic steel mills stopped working and carried out special transformation for the mass production of star pattern superalloys. So as soon as the design was completed here, several steel mills immediately started to run at full capacity and entered large-scale mass production. In Zhou Yang's expectation, the application range of star pattern superalloys is too much. Spacecraft, supporting fighters, mechas, space-based shells, all aspects require the use of star pattern superalloys. If we still use austenite superalloys, it is absolutely impossible with the stock of element 120 ore. On August 15th, under the leadership of Lin Dewei's team, the large laser cannon was completed. The construction of the Mars outpost is officially on track. Zhou Yang and Lin Dewei, He Shengming of North Industries, and heads of departments such as China Construction and Aerospace Corporation took the Kunpeng to Mars to inspect the construction work. I never thought that one day I would be able to go to space and to Mars. He Shengming and others on the Kunpeng seemed very excited. The person in charge of China Construction is Guo Xingwei. This time, China Construction is responsible for the construction of the Mars outpost. Hearing what He Shengming said, he also sighed. Me too. I have been working in the construction industry for a lifetime. I never thought that one day I could go to Mars to build a house. Look, that's the relay communication satellite we built. The person in charge of the aerospace group is Zhang Xingyan. Nowadays, the aerospace group has strongly integrated NASA, the European Space Agency, the E-State Space Agency and other aerospace agencies around the world. It has a more powerful space launch team. The construction and launch of the relay satellite are completed by them. The distance between the Earth and Mars is more than 50 million kilometers. In order to ensure that the signal delays at the second level, the attenuation of electromagnetic signals and cost issues are comprehensively considered. A relay communication satellite base station is arranged every 1.2 million kilometers. A total of 42 relay communication satellite base stations are arranged for 50 million kilometers. The entire satellite is very special. It is a large sphere with 6 thrusters on the front, back, left, right, up and down sides. It is powered by built-in nuclear fusion and can be positioned at any time for attitude correction. The shell is also made of star-patterned superalloy, which is extremely hard and can withstand small meteors in the universe. This project has not been completed yet and is still in progress. Zhou Yang did not participate in the chat. He looked through the design plans of carrier-based fighters submitted by aircraft design bureaus in various countries around the world, such as Boeing, Airbus, Sukhoi Aircraft Design Bureau of E country, Zion Aircraft Design Bureau of Z country, and Chengfei of other countries. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 378, A Desperate Design. Fuxi was also sitting next to Zhou Yang and asked, "Sir, do you have a design that you are satisfied with?" Nowadays, managing such a large number of R&D personnel and institutions, Zhou Yang could not complete it, even if he was a god. Fortunately, there was Fuxi, the first artificial intelligence of mankind and the strongest artificial intelligence at present, who could assist Zhou Yang and complete the relevant work. Zhou Yang also often discussed some things with Fuxi, because Fuxi could take charge of the overall situation and know the R&D progress of each project in detail. They are all too conservative. Zhou Yang looked through various designs, all of which were well-known aircraft design institutions in the world, such as Lockheed, which designed the F-22, and Sukhoi, which amazed the world with its flanker Su-27. As for the domestic Zion aircraft and Chengdu aircraft, they also have highlight products. However, the design plans submitted by these institutions are still somewhat limited, as if their thoughts are bound, and they are all somewhat similar to modern fighter jets. In short, you can tell at a glance that this thing is a fighter jet. But fighter jets are used in the atmosphere, so aerodynamics and drag must be considered. However, the space fighter designed by Zhou Yang has zero drag, so the shape is not important at all. Therefore, it is completely unnecessary to design it like a modern fighter. The slender body of modern fighter jets is destined to have insufficient internal available space. Of course, major design agencies have also made modifications, but in general, they still cannot escape the design constraints of modern fighter jets. In other words, there is no complete concept for future space fighter jets. In the movie, it is of course okay to draw casually when sketching, and you can draw whatever you want, but this is a rigorous design, and every size and every angle are strictly considered and calculated. The internal structure and every inch of space are also designed in advance. Therefore, the major design agencies that have designed more modern fighter jets are completely bound. Like the fighter on the Falkman spacecraft, it is a ball. Flipping all the way back, when it turned to the end, Zhou Yang's eyes suddenly lit up, and a very strange shape appeared in front of him. Overall, it is like an atomic structure, which is a sphere connected by a straight line in the middle. Looking at the design, in the center of this circular structure, there is a large sphere, which is the main body of the fighter, and around the main structure, there are 16 scattered small spheres, connected in the middle by a support body. Zhou Yang carefully checked the design, and found that the sphere in the middle is the cockpit, with some detection systems, communication systems, etc., and the 16 small spheres scattered outside, 8 of which are equipped with thrusters, can provide propulsion power in 8 directions, and these 8 thrusters are 3-dimensional vectors. Through the control system, they can provide propulsion power in more directions, and combine to provide more detailed power. The remaining 8 small spheres are all equipped with laser cannons to provide abundant firepower. As for the supporting connection part in the middle, it uses a hollow tubular design. In addition to providing support, the hollow inside can also be used for wiring, control systems, sensor systems, etc. This design can be said to be a bright spot for Zhou Yang. Moreover, the other party submitted more than one design. According to them, this thing has great room for expansion. Later, several extension design plans were also cited, such as enlarging the main structure in the middle, so that more space can be left to install the energy shield, to provide defense capabilities for the entire fighter. Then the small spheres outside can be added to increase the number, from 8 laser cannons to 16, and finally to a structure similar to Carbon Atom 60, with a full 60 small spheres, 12 propulsion units, and 48 laser cannons. The firepower can be imagined. What's more crazy is that, if one layer of structure is not enough, you can put another layer of structure on the outside, turning it into 2 layers of 120 small spheres inside and outside, with 108 laser cannons. If it's still not enough, then keep adding. Such a design can be described as simple and crude, full of imagination. As for whether it looks good or not, or whether it's rustic or not, it doesn't matter at all. Domestic Design Institute? Zhou Yang turned to the end and unexpectedly found that it was from Dassault Company of Country F in an instant. Zhou Yang didn't think it was strange. Country F always came up with a lot of strange and unique designs. Let's do this. For the first version of the plan, you make a model and calculate the performance, Zhou Yang said to Fuxi. Fuxi nodded and quickly began to calculate. After the calculation, both the material strength and the propulsion efficiency can meet the design requirements. At this time, Kunpeng also arrived at Mars and entered the orbit of Mars. Zhou Yang and others also immediately replaced Zhou Yang. The harsh environment of Mars cannot be achieved without wearing mecha. Kunpeng penetrated the atmosphere of Mars and slowly landed in the center of Mars, which is equivalent to the position of the Earth's equator. Here, there is a predetermined laser cannon base. Now a large number of materials have been delivered to the site, and thousands of industrial robots are running back and forth, busy all the time. There are also a large number of engineers from China Construction, wearing Zhou Yang, responsible for directing the construction of the base. Everyone listened to the report of the person in charge on the site, mainly the various difficulties encountered during the construction, and then used the experience and power of Zhou Yang and others to see if they could help solve them. The biggest problem now is the sandstorm, the person in charge on the site said. Zhou Yang frowned. Mars has an atmosphere, so there will be wind. At the same time, Mars is dry and has a lot of floating dust and sand. When the wind blows, it will form an overwhelming sand. The wind speed of the sandstorm is not too high. It can't blow away our equipment and personnel. The impact in this aspect is not very big. The key is that every sandstorm will roll up a lot of sand. After a sandstorm, the sand will directly cover all our equipment and materials. And the frequency of sandstorms is too frequent. We just cleaned up here, and there is another sandstorm over there, covering us again. Because the atmosphere of Mars is thinner than that of the Earth, the wind speed is not high. According to research data, the fastest is only 100 km per hour. But the trouble is that, as the person in charge of the site said, the sandstorm rolls up a lot of sand, which will affect the construction progress. Mr. Zhao, do you think such a large amount of sand will affect the accuracy of our equipment? Because a laser cannon must rotate to adjust the angle. If sand enters the delicate structure inside, will it damage the equipment? He Shengming thought for a while and said. Zhou Yang's expression was serious. Just like He Shengming said, the laser cannon is a precision device, but in order to launch and adjust the shooting angle, there must be a rotating platform. Even the most precise rotating platform will be attacked by wind and sand over time, causing equipment damage and reduced accuracy. This is a target tens of thousands of kilometers away. A slight deviation will make a world of difference to the target. Not to mention, if the wind and sand are strong, it may bury the laser cannon directly. Chapter 379 Silver Figure. It looks like a simple thing, but there are still many problems in the actual implementation. Zhou Yang didn't understand before why the leaders always like to go down to inspect. If they don't go down to see it in person, who knows what problems will arise. Moreover, in the current situation, if Zhou Yang doesn't come, the problems below can't be fed back. In order to meet the construction deadline, what can the frontline construction responsible for? They can only bite the bullet and build it first, and then hand it over. When it is really used, there will be many problems. So during this period of time, Zhou Yang was really busy, and he had to keep an eye on all aspects of things. If a problem is found, it will be solved on the spot. He Shengming and several others discussed it, and finally looked at Zhou Yang and asked, "Mr. Zhao, what do you think?" He Shengming discussed several methods, either adding a protective shield and opening it during the battle, to minimize the impact of sand and dust as much as possible. But there is a delay time for the protective shield to be opened, which may delay the fighter. Zhang Xingyan also proposed an idea, to simply set up the laser cannon base on the synchronous orbit of Mars, like a space station, but in this way, it will have to withstand the harsh environment of space, asteroid impacts, various space radiation, particle invasion, etc. Moreover, after the laser cannon is fired, it will produce huge recoil, and it needs to constantly adjust its posture. Zhou Yang came back to his senses. In his opinion, the best solution is to add an energy shield system. Once a sandstorm occurs, the energy shield can be turned on to resist the sandstorm. Normally, it can be closed, and dust prevention can be taken care of. However, the energy shield has not been broken through yet, so this idea cannot be done for the time being. Moreover, Zhou Yang is also inclined to build the laser cannon base on Mars, because it can be built large enough and the construction difficulty is lower. Just thinking about it, a yellowish-brown line appeared on the distant skyline, and was approaching quickly. At the base, an alarm sounded immediately. "Mr. Zhao, the sandstorm is coming." The person in charge of the scene changed his face. The scene also became busy and nervous, and all the industrial robots began to evacuate in an orderly manner, covering materials and equipment. "Mr. Zhao, let's quickly avoid the sandstorm," He Shengming said, his face a little pale. Zhou Yang shook his head and said, "No, we are wearing mechas, and this kind of sandstorm can't affect us." He Shengming and his companions hesitated for a moment, and had to stand beside Zhou Yang. Soon, the sandstorm approached, covering the sky and the sky. In a flash, the sandstorm submerged Zhou Yang and others. The violent hurricane still couldn't shake the Zhuanian. Zhou Yang stood with his hands behind his back, quietly watching the changes in the sandstorm. It can be clearly seen that the sandstorm rolled up an astonishing amount of sand and soil. Almost instantly, the construction site was covered with sand and soil. Even if it was cleaned up afterwards, one was worried that it would not be cleaned up properly, affecting the precision assembly work, and the other was delaying the construction period. The sandstorm on Mars is not an occasional one, but a regular one. Sometimes, it blows for several days, and can change the landform. Although we have tried our best to choose a place with high terrain, a large amount of sand and soil has accumulated, and the terrain on both sides has risen visibly with the naked eye. Zhou Yang had a headache. The conditions on Mars were extremely bad. He was now inclined to find a way to build a laser cannon base in the synchronous orbit. While thinking, Zhou Yang suddenly noticed from the corner of his eye that a light spot suddenly appeared in the sandstorm. Fuxi also felt the change in Zhou Yang's eyes, followed his sight, and instantly captured this light. The lens quickly locked, tracked, and zoomed in. Zhou Yang also saw the feedback image immediately and was stunned. It turned out to be a human figure. It was just too fast, and it flashed by, and he couldn't see it clearly. Is it Zhuanian? Zhou Yang's heart moved, and he instantly soared into the sky. In a flash, Zhou Yang came to an altitude of thousands of meters, and the sandstorm was also stepped on. As far as the eye can see, there is a sandstorm spreading for dozens of kilometers under his feet. "Sir, I compared the figure. It seems not Zhuanian," Fuxi said in a serious voice. Zhou Yang searched in the sandstorm, saying, "Is it because the speed is too fast? I don't know. It shouldn't be. The height doesn't match. The target's height is no more than 1.8 meters. Zhou Yang's heart sank. He just felt that it was unlikely to be the Zhuanian, because there is only one construction base on Mars now. All the Zhuanians are near the construction base. When the sandstorm appeared just now, all the Zhuanians were taking shelter, and no one would act casually without orders. If it's not the Zhuanian, then what kind of thing can survive on Mars and at such a fast speed? The key is that it is vaguely a human figure. Apart from the mecha, Zhou Yang really can't think of a second possibility. After a quick search, Zhou Yang did not find the target. Mr. Zhao, what's wrong? He, Shengming and others nervously chased after him. The soldiers on guard near the base also took off and guarded Zhou Yang. Nothing, I saw something, maybe I was dazzled, Zhou Yang said and retracted his gaze. But just as he retracted his gaze, Zhou Yang suddenly looked up again. In the far sky, in the dim Martian sky, a light flickered and disappeared quickly. His eyes quickly locked, and the mecha's lens captured and magnified it, but the distance was too far, and he could only see what seemed to be a ball of fire rushing into the sky. Obviously, something penetrated the atmosphere and formed the light due to friction. Chase, Zhou Yang said without hesitation. Fuxi instantly started the thrusters, and Zhou Yang disappeared in a flash. What's going on? Where did Mr. Zhao go again? He, Shengming and others looked confused. The guards were so anxious that they stamped their feet and disappeared one after another. Zhou Yang must not get into trouble. The curvature engine was fully activated, and Zhou Yang's speed was extremely fast. In a flash, he approached the target. At this time, the target was about to pass through the Martian atmosphere. The atmosphere was thin, and entering the vacuum environment, the friction became smaller, and the light and heat around the target slowly dissipated. With a fixed gaze, Zhou Yang clearly saw that it was indeed a humanoid object. The whole body is silver, just like Dr. Manhattan and the movie. From Zhou Yang's angle, he can only see his hands and feet, but not his face. Sir, is this a mecha? Or rather, it is originally like this. Fuxi exclaimed. Although this thing is in human form, it is hard to tell whether it is wearing a mecha or just looks like this. Zhou Yang didn't say anything, but his heart was beating wildly. Obviously, this is not a product of the Earth. Alien civilization. Zhou Yang had felt before that, although Forkman appeared because of the star core and came to the Earth accidentally, the appearance of Forkman was definitely like opening Pandora's box, and alien civilization would appear sooner or later. I just don't know if it is an enemy or a friend. Chapter 380 Command Center. Chase. Zhou Yang shouted in a deep voice. The full force. Zhou Yang actually has some hidden permissions, such as the propulsion system, which can obtain higher acceleration at the cost of damaging the curvature engine. However, this permission is not available to ordinary people, even in battle, because if the curvature engine is damaged, there is a certain probability that the mecha will break, causing irreversible damage to the driver. Of course, Zhou Yang must have this permission. Fuxi said anxiously, Sir, the risk is too great, I can't let you do this. Quick, don't you even listen to my orders? Zhou Yang scolded sternly, and then said, I know the risk. There is a 16% chance of causing the mecha to be damaged. I know the performance of this Zhou Yang better than you. Hurry up, start it. Okay. Fuxi sighed lightly, and the curvature engine started at full power, bursting out at a faster speed. But the silver figure in front was obviously faster, and the distance between the two was quickly widening. I can't catch up. Fuxi reminded. Zhou Yang gritted his teeth, suddenly pulled out the laser sword behind him, and threw the hilt out. At the extreme speed, with the power of the mecha, the laser sword handle burst out at a faster speed. Almost in a flash, it caught up with the silver figure. However, the silver figure seemed to have eyes behind it, and its body slightly shifted, accurately dodging the laser sword handle. But Zhou Yang's attack was not over yet. He raised his right arm, aimed the laser gun hanging on it, and fired. The opponent obviously did not reach the speed of light. In theory, it is definitely faster than the laser gun. In a vacuum, the fastest is undoubtedly the speed of light. The laser gun is a kind of laser attack. With the power of the mecha, it is almost impossible to avoid the attack of laser weapons in a vacuum, especially at a very close distance. The only way is to keep a distance. No matter how fast the speed of light is, it takes time. This short time is the only chance to react in advance and avoid the attack. Only those who have undergone rigorous training and formed muscle reactions through long-term training can avoid the attack of laser weapons under extreme conditions. Otherwise, it is almost 100% hit. This is also the reason why hundreds of brave soldiers died in the last battle with Fokman in just a few minutes of fighting. A laser bullet hit the silver figure in a flash. However, compared with the large laser cannon, the power of the laser gun carried by Zhou Yang is really limited. Zhou Yang clearly saw the silver figure being hit, but it did not cause any damage to the silver mecha. However, the silver figure slowed down in this attack. "Quick, slow down, let the soldiers behind attack," Zhou Yang said immediately. Although shocked, Zhou Yang's mind was still very clear, and he knew that he must not take risks easily. Before, he had to chase with all his strength at the cost of damaging the curvature engine, just to keep the silver figure. And now, the 12 Zhuanians guarding the Mars construction base have caught up. In front, the silver figure slowly fell, and it was about 10,000 kilometers away from Zhou Yang. At this distance, if it were not for the Zhuanians beyond visual range, he would not be able to see the other party at all. The silver figure stopped abruptly, stopped in space, and slowly turned around. At this moment, Zhou Yang could see the other person's face clearly. The silver shell should be a mecha, covering the whole body of the man. The face was also a one-piece mask, and only a pair of eyes, which were darker silver, made a clear distinction. The other party just turned around and did not make any further movements, but Zhou Yang was sure that the other party must be looking at him. Thousands of kilometers away from Zhou Yang, 12 mechas were approaching rapidly under the leadership of Captain Yu Hongguang. The order arrived. Attack. Yu Hongguang roared and drew out his two-handed laser sword. 12 mechas, like 12 phantoms, passed by Zhou Yang and rushed towards the silver figure. At the same time, on Earth, the newly established Confederation Military Command Center. This command center, led by Country Z, integrates the military command centers of countries around the world and has established a complete command system. With one order, the order can reach any military unit in the world and mobilize any unit. Li Xianshu has just taken office as the director of the command center. At the same time, the person in charge of the entire command center is Wang Mazhao, the Minister of Defense of Country Z. Li Xianshu's duty is to connect the dots. At the same time, as a housekeeper, he has to mobilize relevant resources, and he is usually very busy. At this time, Li Xianshu was reviewing documents in the office. Suddenly, a sharp alarm sounded in the office. Li Xianshu's face changed instantly. This alarm sound is not activated casually. There are no more than 2 hands and 2 feet in the world who have the authority to activate this alarm. Li Xianshu immediately dropped the documents in his hand and ran out of the office in a hurry. Outside the door, there was already a panic, and the corridor was full of staff running in a hurry. The sharp alarm sounded non-stop, making the atmosphere extremely tense. Li Xianshu hurried to the command center. Wang Mazhao had just arrived at the spacious command center. Wang Mazhao is nearly 60 years old, but he is still very healthy. He can run 3 kilometers every morning, but at this moment, he is still out of breath. After arriving at the scene, he immediately shouted, "Quick, determine the source of the alarm." A colonel stood up and said, "The alarm was sent by Fuxi. Mr. Zhao accidentally discovered the enemy when he was inspecting Mars. This is the photo sent back by Fuxi." On the big screen opposite, the photos sent back by Fuxi immediately appeared. There were 2 photos in total. One was a blurry figure in the sandstorm, and the second was a silver figure in space. Seeing this silver figure, Li Xianshu and Wang Mazhao felt a chill rushing to the top of their heads. "Aliens. What's the situation now? How is Mr. Zhao?" Li Xianshu asked hurriedly. "Who can get into trouble? Zhou Yang must not get into trouble." The colonel said. The alarm was activated by Fuxi. At the same time, Mr. Zhao has issued an order. The First Army has received the order and is ready to set off. At the same time, the 101st Regiment of the First Army at the Moon Base has also received the order and is setting off. The station of the First Army in the northwest. From the 1st Space Division, it was upgraded to the 1st Army, with the goal of equipping 80,000 Zhuanians and becoming the trump card of the Space Force. However, during this period, the production of Zhuanians was still limited. And although the star pattern superalloy was offline, it had just been offline for a short time, so the production of Zhuanians was still limited. Now the entire First Army has only more than 10,000 Zhuanians. Even so, it was the result of integrating global resources and strength and madly increasing the number of troops. The moment the order was issued, a sharp alarm sounded at the 1st Army base. In a state of combat readiness, all soldiers were dispatched at the first time, and one Zhou after another broke through the atmosphere and rushed straight into space. Chapter 381 Tragic. But it's too late. In the command center, Li Xianshu stamped his feet anxiously. This is not the moon, which is close and can be reached in a few minutes. This is Mars, which is more than 50 million kilometers away. Even if Zhou is at full speed, it will take several hours. After a few hours, the daylily is cold. Wang Mazhao obviously understood this and gritted his teeth and said, since the other party has appeared, there must be more than one person. The hateful thing is that we are not ready yet. Wang Mazhao punched the command platform angrily. With the current strength of the Earth, even the alien spacecraft has not been built. How to defend against the alien attack? Quick, notify all defense zones to enter the wartime state immediately. All troops will enter the designated defense zone as soon as possible and wait for further orders. Wang Mazhao ordered. Zhou Yang has already sent out the 1st Army, but he can only do so much. The rest is the defense of the Earth. The command centers and governments of countries around the world received the alarm at the first time. In addition to being shocked, the global military forces were also mobilized. In the hidden mountains and forests, missile silos were opened one by one, and missiles were ready to be launched one by one. Fighter planes were fully loaded and soared into the sky, entering the air defense crews. Soldiers from major military bases also entered the defense zone one after another, as if facing a great enemy. Mr. Zhao, please don't be in trouble. Li Xianshu muttered silently, and at this moment, his phone rang frantically. At this moment, Li Xianshu also had countless things to deal with. Mars. 12 Zhou passed Zhou Yang and rushed towards the silver figure. Yu Hongguang, who was leading the way, rushed to the front. His body was like lightning, and his laser swords crossed and slashed at the silver figure. Seeing that the silver figure was about to be hit, the silver figure suddenly accelerated and disappeared on the spot, avoiding the attack, but Yu Hongguang and others attacked one after another. The 12 Zhou launched attacks one after another, and their moves were completely different. Although the silver figure was fast, it could dodge one, but not all 12, and soon it was hit by the attack. The laser sword slashed at the silver figure, splashing a series of sparks, but the attack only left a dark mark. After a wave of attacks, the silver figure was hit 3 times. The most severe one hit his neck. Sir, we should retreat. The chances of winning are not high. Fuxi said. Zhou Yang knew that the 1st Army was rushing to Mars, but Mars was 50 million kilometers away from the Earth. It would take nearly 5 hours for Zhou to come here. By then, it would be too late. What are the chances of winning? Zhou Yang asked. Fuxi said, less than 10%. The opponent's speed is too fast, and the attack efficiency is not high. At this time, the silver figure also began to fight back. He didn't seem to have any laser weapons or anything. He turned into a silver streamer and rushed towards Yu Hongguang like lightning, punching him. With a bang, Yu Hongguang was struck by lightning and was blasted dozens of kilometers away. Yu Hongguang looked down and saw a clearly visible fist mark on his chest. You can imagine how powerful the opponent is. However, seeing this scene, Yu Hongguang was not surprised but happy. He shouted in the communication channel, this guy's attack is not strong. In Yu Hongguang's view, as long as it is not a one-shot kill, it is not a strong attack. Make full use of our numerical advantage and catch him. As long as we catch him, he will be dead. Brothers, we are now on Mars. These are aliens. We don't know if there will be more alien armies behind us. We can die in the battle, but Mr. Zhao must not get into trouble, so it's time to fight to the death. At this time, the voice of the intelligent program sounded beside Yu Hongguang's ears. You have been given a higher authority. The curvature engine is running at superpower. In 5 minutes, the curvature engine will be damaged. Then a countdown appeared next to it. Yu Hongguang was stunned, but he was overjoyed and said, Old you didn't tell me earlier that there is such a function. Old Yu Hongguang's intelligent program sighed and said, it's not that I won't tell you. You know, in 5 minutes, the curvature engine will be damaged. You have a 16% chance. No, plus you are fighting. This probability will at least double or triple. That is, you have a 70% chance that the mecha will break. At that time, you will be dead. Yu Hongguang looked calm and smiled. This is a battlefield. A real man doesn't need to be wrapped in horsehide. If he dies, he dies. It doesn't matter. As he said that, Yu Hongguang rushed out again, and his speed increased significantly by about 30%. The laser sword was put away, and Yu Hongguang pounced on the silver figure with both hands like a tiger. Seeing the opportunity, Yu Hongguang grabbed the silver figure from behind like a sneak attack assassin, and then directly entangled with it, holding the silver figure tightly. It's done. Yu Hongguang was overjoyed and shouted, "Quick, attack." Not far away, a soldier slashed with a knife as fast as lightning. The silver figure struggled hard, and Yu Hongguang's arms made a tooth-grinding metal friction sound, but he held on tightly, and didn't let go. Seeing the laser sword slashing down, the armor on the silver figure's body suddenly vibrated rapidly. The armor on the silver figure seemed to have the characteristics of a non-Newtonian fluid, which could become solid or liquid in an instant. At this moment, it became like liquid and vibrated rapidly. A superimposed force burst out, and with a click, Yu Hongguang's two arms twisted in an exaggerated reverse direction. Inside the armor, Yu Hongguang's arms were also directly fractured in the reverse direction. Yu Hongguang gritted his teeth, and didn't let out a scream. In a flash, the silver figure disappeared from the spot, and the laser sword slashed down, fiercely hitting Yu Hongguang's body. With a puff, Yu Hongguang's helmet was torn. No. The attacking soldier's eyes immediately turned red. In an instant, the extremely cold temperature invaded, and Yu Hongguang was instantly frozen to death. Captain. The attacking soldier gritted his teeth, threw away the laser sword, and rushed towards the silver figure. The other team members were all crazy, and in the superpower state, they rushed towards the silver figure frantically. The silver figure burst out, dodged, and punched the soldier who rushed towards him from behind. Bang! The punch hit the attacking soldier's head. But when the attacking soldier was attacked, he actually laughed, his head tilted back exaggeratedly, but his hands stretched out like lightning, and grabbed the silver figure. "Quick, attack me!" the attacking soldier shouted. A soldier next to him gritted his teeth, grabbed the laser sword, and charged towards the silver figure. With the laser sword in front, his body was as fast as a flash of lightning. The silver figure struggled hard, but couldn't get rid of it for a moment. Behind him, the attack had already arrived, and the silver figure suddenly swung up, and turned upside down, just avoiding the attack behind him. With a swish, the laser sword pierced through the attacking warrior. Another person died in the battle. Chapter 382 Aliens Speak Chinese. The body of the warrior who grabbed the silver figure was pierced by the laser sword, and the extreme cold invaded, and he was frozen to death instantly. But the silver figure was surprised to find that, even though he was dead, the warrior's hands were still holding him tightly. Next to him, another warrior rushed over. Such a battle can be described as tragic. He would not hesitate to sacrifice himself to kill the enemy. The silver figure was shocked. In the distance, Zhou Yang also fell into silence. He didn't want to see such a battle. If the technology was stronger than the aliens, and the warships were swept across, there would be no need for the warriors to use their lives as a price to exchange for victory. But with the current level of technology on Earth, facing more powerful aliens, there is only one way. The corners of his eyes were a little wet, but Zhou Yang's mind was still clear. It would take a long time for the first army to arrive, so the only way was to rely on these 10 brave warriors. "Can you aim?" Zhou Yang asked. Zhou Yang wanted to use the laser gun in his hand to help, but with so many people fighting together, if he couldn't aim, it would hurt his own soldiers. "Fuchs," he said, "he's too fast to aim." But at this moment, the silver figure used the same method to shake off the soldier hanging on him and quickly retreated. At the same time, a ray of light was projected from his body. The light projected into the depths of the starry sky and actually formed a line of words. "Stop, I'm not your enemy." What shocked Zhou Yang was that this line of words was actually in Chinese. At this time, the silver figure moved quickly, facing the attacks of many soldiers. He did not fight back. Zhou Yang's heart was shocked, and it took a few seconds for him to come back to his senses. He gritted his teeth and said, "Stop attacking first." The 10 Zhou stopped immediately. The 10 soldiers panted and stared at the silver figure, and the silver figure also stopped. Mr. Zhou, we only have 4 minutes. If we don't attack, it will be too late. Deputy Captain Yang Ping shouted in the communication channel. Yes, Mr. Zhou, this may be a delaying tactic of the aliens. Zhou Yang's brain was working frantically. He was shocked that the silver figure actually understood Chinese. At the same time, they were worried about the soldiers' situation, and all of them were running at superpower. If 5 minutes passed, they would not only lose their combat effectiveness, but there would also be a certain chance that their mechas would be damaged, which would mean they would definitely die. Let the Kunpeng come up to help quickly, Zhou Yang said. Then he said, ask him who he is. If you want to communicate, go to the ground. Otherwise, our soldiers will continue to attack. There are still a large number of industrial robots on the ground, so it is always no problem to be cannon fodder. Of course, with the performance of industrial robots, it is not easy to be cannon fodder. But on Mars, at least there is an extra layer of protection, and you can enter the protection base at any time. Zhou Yang's Zhou immediately projected what Zhou Yang said. The silver figure opposite was silent for a while, and then projected another line of words. Okay. Then he pointed to Mars and left quickly. Many soldiers looked at each other and hurried to follow. The group quickly returned to Mars. On Mars, the sandstorm had passed. He Shengming and others were originally going to come up to help, but were stopped by Zhou Yang. They were not soldiers, and coming up would only cause trouble. The laser cannon built a base, and the silver figure slowly landed on the ground. 10 soldiers followed, and stood guard nearby. Zhou Yang also landed at the same time, and He Shengming and others quickly came up to greet him. Mr. Zhou, are you okay? He Shengming asked hurriedly. Zhou Yang shook his head and said to Yang Ping and others, hurry up and shut down the mecha. If the mecha is shut down now, the curvature engine can still be saved, but the damage is certain. But safety is at least not a problem. Yang Ping shook his head and said, Mr. Zhou, there is still time, just in case. Let's wait. At this time, the silver figure projected a line of words and said, we can enter your base to talk. It's safer there. He Shengming and others also knew about the silver figure and thought it was an alien, but they never thought that the alien could understand Chinese. Mr. Zhou, what's going on? How can aliens speak Chinese? He Shengming said blankly. Zhou Yang's expression was serious, and he said, this is also what I'm worried about. Knowing Chinese means one thing, that is, the other party has infiltrated the human world and is secretly observing the Earth. All the changes on Earth should not be hidden from the aliens. The aliens did not attack because they thought that Earthlings were no threat to them. But if they ever thought that Earth could threaten them, such as Zhou Yang built a spaceship, they would probably attack and destroy Earth directly. This is the most terrifying thing, making you die in despair and hope. Zhou Yang nodded and led the way to the protection base. The construction base, a temporary protection base, has a life support system, but the area is not large, mainly for storing some sophisticated equipment and instruments. The silver figure, under the vigilance of Yang Ping and others, entered the protection base together. There was air in the base and the temperature was suitable. Zhou Yang spread out his mask, took a deep breath, looked at the silver figure, and said in a deep voice, do you understand what I'm saying? Everyone was facing a great enemy, especially Yang Ping and others. In this narrow space, if the silver figure wanted to attack, they would not be able to resist. At this moment, the silver mask on the face of the silver figure slowly converged like flowing water, revealing his true face. He has short brown hair, strong features, pale complexion, and light blue eyes. He is a male. His appearance is exactly the same as that of a human. Everyone at the scene was shocked. However, aliens are not rare species now. There are still a lot of them imprisoned on the island, so everyone was shocked, but did not react much. The man nodded and actually said, I understand. His voice was a little hoarse, but his pronunciation was still very standard. Zhou Yang was even more shocked. It seemed that aliens had been observing the Earth for a long time. After a moment of hesitation, Zhou Yang asked, who are you? Which planet are you from? For what purpose did you come to the Earth? The man seemed to hesitate. After a few seconds, he sighed and said, well, since you have discovered me, there is no point in hiding anymore. Zhou Yang frowned. What does this mean? The man looked at Zhou Yang and said, you can call me Kurosawa. As for where I come from, I can say that I'm from the earth. When this was said, everyone at the scene was stunned. What a joke, you are from the earth. He Shengming screamed with his eyes wide open. Others had similar reactions. They were obviously aliens, so how could they be from Earth? When did Earth hide such a powerful guy? Zhou Yang looked directly at Kurosawa, and suddenly something occurred to him. He blurted out, you are from the Oma civilization. Kurosawa smiled calmly and nodded, as expected of you. You are the most intelligent person on Earth. Yes, I'm indeed from the Oma civilization. Chapter 383 Gravity Zone. Captain Yang, what is the Oma civilization? A team member asked in a low voice in the communication channel. Yang Ping said in a deep voice, don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Knowing more is not necessarily a good thing. Not only Yang Ping, but also He Shengming, and others were full of questions. Where did the Oma civilization come from? Zhou Yang came back to his senses and said, Mr. He, and Captain Yang, you go out first. I want to talk to him alone. What about your safety? Yang Ping was stunned. He Shengming also hurriedly said, yes, Mr. Zhao, this guy's origin is unknown. You must not be careless. Zhou Yang waved his hand and said, it's okay, I'm wearing Zuanian. I should be able to escape. Okay, go out. Everyone hesitated for a while, but still went out. They understood that Zhou Yang didn't want them to know what he was going to say next. Or in other words, their level was not enough. After everyone went out, Zhou Yang thought about it, sat down next to him, and motioned Kurosawa to sit down as well. The conditions are simple. There is no tea. Please forgive me. Kurosawa sat down carelessly, waved his hand to indicate that he didn't need it, and then said, you are really brave. It is the luck of human civilization that you can be born. Zhou Yang said, stop talking nonsense and get straight to the point. Are you staying in the solar system to monitor us? The Oma civilization left the Earth for 65 million years, but the Earth is still their home planet after all. Kurosawa appeared in the solar system, most likely under the order of the Oma civilization to monitor the Earth. It is not necessarily, Kurosawa said. According to the time unit of the Earth, about 20,000 years ago, we left the Earth and went to Lucas Star and successfully arrived at Lucas Star and took root. At that time, there were only 300 million people left in our civilization, but after years of recuperation and development, our population has returned to its peak, reaching 20 billion, and the technology is prosperous, reaching the level of a second-level civilization. That's not right. Zhou Yang interrupted Kurosawa and frowned. You said 20,000 years ago, but according to my speculation, you have been away from the Earth for a full 65 million years. This time is completely wrong. Milin can confirm that the Oma civilization did leave the Earth 65 million years ago, and through the determination of dinosaur fossils, the extinction age of dinosaurs can be basically determined. The only explanation is four-dimensional space. From Forkman's side, the existence of four-dimensional space can also be confirmed, but according to Zhou Yang's idea, the formation of four-dimensional space should be related to gravity. A large enough gravity forms a space distortion, which also distorts the time dimension. But there are black holes in the solar system, and they have not been discovered at all. Kurosawa said, it seems that you also know this. In fact, this point was discovered after we left the solar system. About 2 light years away from the solar system, there is a special area, like a shell, wrapping up the entire solar system. It is this shell that forms a huge gravity zone. The gravity zone is our concept. In the gravity zone, time will be distorted and become longer. Zhou Yang couldn't help but widen his eyes, almost unable to believe what he heard. The diameter of the solar system is about 1.9 light years, and 2 light years away from the sun, that is an area with a diameter of 4 light years, which wraps the entire solar system and forms a strong gravity zone. Why is the gravity of the Earth not that strong? Zhou Yang asked back 20,000 years outside, 65 million years on Earth. This is a time difference of several thousand times, so the gravity should be hundreds of times, not to mention thousands of times. Can humans survive with hundreds of times of gravity? I'm afraid they will die in an instant. Kurosawa shook his head and said, gravity is not what you think. It is also affected by the surrounding celestial bodies. According to our speculation and research, this area originally had a huge star, and after the collapse, this huge gravity zone was formed. But then the sun was born again, and the solar system was reformed. Our Earth was formed under such circumstances. Zhou Yang frowned and fell into deep thought. According to Falkman's timeline, they discovered the core of the star hundreds of years ago, and then sent the Red Queen spacecraft. The spacecraft arrived on Earth and stayed in Country M for 90 years. But for Falkman and his group, Red Queen and her group had only been away for a few months. The star core arrived on Earth 65 million years ago, causing the destruction of the Oma civilization. Then, the Oma civilization struggled to leave the Earth, and after decades of long travel, arrived at Lucas star 40 light years away, and then settled down. After 20,000 years of development, it developed into a secondary civilization. But not long ago, Falkman came here to make a fortune from the war between the Oma civilization and the Decidin civilization. The timeline in between is completely inconsistent. Zhou Yang calculated, and finally shook his head helplessly. With the current theories and knowledge on Earth, it is impossible to understand the concept of four-dimensional space. Moreover, the universe is too big and too mysterious. Time is just a concept given by humans, but specifically on the scale of the entire universe, whether there is a concept of time is unknown. Unable to figure it out, Zhou Yang was too lazy to think about it and said, let's skip this question for now, and talk about why we returned to Earth. Kurosawa sighed lightly and continued, this has to start with the war between our Oma civilization and another second-level civilization called Decidin. I don't know the specific cause, but this war has lasted for more than 10 years, and we have been completely defeated. At this time, our leader secretly prepared an evacuation plan. The plan was to abandon Lucas star and return to our home planet, which is Earth. And I was the advanced soldier sent back to the home planet to check the situation on the home planet. When we left, the home planet was simply uninhabitable, so we don't know if the Earth is still suitable for habitation after so many years. Zhou Yang nodded. Judging from the information from Falkman, the Oma civilization was indeed no match for the Decidin civilization, so it was reasonable to prepare an evacuation plan and return to the home planet. What happened next? Kurosawa sighed, but a traitor told the Decidin civilization about our evacuation plan. The Decidin civilization sent a fleet to intercept our advance team. The warship our advance team was on was destroyed. I was the only one left out of the entire advance team of 163 people. I luckily escaped and arrived in the solar system. In the following time, I stayed on Uranus to continue my mission, and I stayed there for nearly 30 years. Zhou Yang raised his eyebrows. He never thought that Kurosawa had been in the solar system for 30 years. Chapter 384 Self-Reliance. Kurosawa took a deep breath and continued, for the past 30 years, I have been observing you, secretly learning your culture and understanding your development history. Hearing this, Zhou Yang was shocked and felt creepy. Aliens were so close, and had been spying on the Earth for 30 years. Kurosawa said, you must be wondering why I haven't gone back yet. Of course I want to go back, but the carrier-based aircraft I'm riding is seriously damaged. The power system and communication system are all damaged. I once tried to go back directly in the Mecha, but at the edge of the gravity zone, I found Decidin's warships. They have blocked the entire gravity zone. I've been here for 30 years, but for them, it may be just a few months or less than half a year, so they can block for a long time and block the retreat of our Oma civilization. Zhou Yang frowned again. Even if the Oma civilization is not an enemy, then this Decidin civilization is also a big trouble. It is 2 light years away, which means it can come in at any time. Once it comes in, how can humans resist it? At least it can't be resisted now. Then you take the initiative to show up now. What is your purpose? Zhou Yang asked. Hiding for 30 years, suddenly showing up at this time, there must be a purpose. Kurosawa smiled bitterly and said, I didn't show up on my own initiative. I was discovered by you by accident. Not long ago, you had a battle with a warship, and I also knew about it, so I showed up several times to see where this warship came from and how you would deal with it. Who knew that you would find it on Mars? Zhou Yang didn't say anything. Kurosawa's words could not be completely believed. Although the Oma civilization originated from the Earth, so many years have passed, generation after generation. Could it still have any feelings for the mother planet? I'm afraid it's a question mark. Zhou Yang fell into deep thought. After a while, Zhou Yang said, "Can you give us the mecha on you to study, and your carrier-based aircraft, if possible, also give it to us for research? Of course, it would be best if you can provide some technology." After thinking it over, Zhou Yang also figured out what the attitude of the Oma civilization would be, whether Decidin really blocked the solar system. These intelligence and information were all false. The iron must be hard, and the strength of human civilization is the foundation. No matter what your purpose is, the key is to quickly build a spaceship and control more powerful weapons. Once you are strong, you can calmly deal with any changes. If Kurosawa is willing to provide some technical support, then he is a friend. If not, then he is an enemy. Hayes said, "Can I say no?" Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. Zhou Yang stood up and said loudly, "Your Oma civilization has existed for tens of millions of years and has walked out of the solar system with your own strength. We humans have developed for more than 1 million years and are confident that we can walk our own path. If someone helps us, we certainly welcome it. If not, we don't care. You have observed the Earth for 30 years and you should know that I'm from Country Z. We have a good character in Country Z, which is hard work. We don't believe in ghosts and gods, or fate. We believe that man can conquer nature, and that hard work will be rewarded. We repay a drop of water with a spring. When friends come, we have good wine. When jackals come, we have sticks. I'm confident and believe that our compatriots will protect ourselves with their own hands and strength. So if you don't want to, of course there is no problem." In Zhou Yang's view, those who put their hopes on others are fools, and everything depends on themselves. It is not easy for different ethnic groups to get together, not to mention two completely different civilizations separated by tens of millions of years. So what if we come from the same mother planet? Millions of years ago, the ancestors of people all over the world were playing in the mud under the same tree, but they still split into countries and fought with each other. Kurosawa was a little embarrassed and said, "It's not that I don't want to help you. I'm just a soldier, not a scientist, and I only have this set of mechas left. If it is damaged, then I will have no hope of returning." Zhou Yang glanced at Kurosawa and said, "You don't have to explain anything. I understand, but please don't spy on our Earth in the future. This time is fine, but if we find you again in the future, we will be enemies." After that, Zhou Yang made a gesture of invitation. Kurosawa seemed to want to explain more, but in the end he didn't say anything, nodded, turned around and left. "Sir, why don't you keep him?" Fuchs's voice sounded, saying, "His mecha is very valuable for research, and the carrier-based aircraft he is riding." Zhou Yang said, "With our strength, we can't keep him. All 12 Zuanians were run at superpower once, and their engines were damaged, and their combat effectiveness dropped sharply. And the main force will take several hours to arrive. Soon, He Shengming and others rushed in, and only when they saw that Zhou Yang was fine did they breathe a sigh of relief. "Mr. Zhao, how did you talk about it? Why did you let this guy go?" He Shengming asked. "That's right, why didn't you catch him? He killed 2 of us." Yang Ping and others also looked angry and unwilling. Zhou Yang didn't say anything, but stood with his hands behind his back. When he walked out of the Earth, he realized how cruel this universe was. One enemy after another could easily destroy you at any time. It would have been fine if he didn't know it before, but now that he knows it, how can he not feel pressured? Especially Zhou Yang is also responsible for the technological development of human civilization. If his mind is not strong enough, anyone else would have been crushed long ago. "You go out first." Zhou Yang waved his hand and didn't say much. Everyone looked at each other and had to leave. Zhou Yang said again, "Notify the Earth that the alarm has been lifted. Let the first army leave 1 regiment and let the rest go back. This regiment will be stationed on Mars for a long time." "Okay, sir." Fuchsie immediately issued an order. Zhou Yang took a deep breath. The scene in front of him was just like the Z country in Zhou Yang's parents' time. It was surrounded by imperialist powers, clamoring that an atomic bomb could make you return to primitive society and play in the mud. But did the people of Z compromise or surrender? No. Sleeping on straw and tasting gall, 3,000 Vietnamese soldiers can swallow woo. Under tremendous pressure, Z country worked hard to become stronger. Generations of people burned themselves and sacrificed so much to gain today's glory and strength. And now, it's just that these imperialisms have been replaced by alien civilizations. Zhou Yang believes that human civilization, or Z country, will not be defeated. Let's go back. Zhou Yang said in a deep voice. Armor civilization, dissident civilization, the horn of war has sounded, and the earth is not ready yet. Next, the only thing Zhou Yang can do is to try his best, invest more energy in research and development, and complete the construction of interstellar battleships as soon as possible. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 385. The main body of the battleship is completed. At the end of August, there was another breakthrough in controlled nuclear fusion. Zhu Jindang's team successfully developed a new generation of controlled nuclear fusion devices, based on the helium-3 enriched on the moon, and the energy output efficiency was increased by about 90 times. This improvement looks exaggerated, but it is not much. And it is not that in the original Surenchi state, Zhou Yang can reach 3000 km per second, and after increasing by 90 times, it can reach 300,000 km per second. Energy utilization efficiency is still a big problem. According to Fuchs's calculations, using the improved Surenchi, the speed of Zhou Yang can be increased by about 4 times to about 12,000 km per second. However, Zhu Jindang still developed a large-scale nuclear fusion device. His next task is not over yet. One is to continue to increase the energy of the nuclear fusion device, and the other is to miniaturize it. On September 13th, the energy shield technology that Zhou Yang cares about the most finally made a breakthrough after countless R&D personnel studied day and night. The first prototype was made. The entire prototype is not big. The energy shield is different from other technologies. The smaller it is, the easier it is to make. Because the lower the power, the better the energy control. So this prototype is only about 30 centimeters high. But don't underestimate its small size. The internal structure is extremely complex. The processing of many parts has reached the nanometer level. If it hadn't obtained the relevant production technology from the Red Queen, it might not be able to be manufactured with the production technology on Earth. Start it. Zhou Yang ordered in the test field. The entire energy generator was fixed on a bracket. With Zhou Yang's order, the device started. 2 seconds later, a blue energy shield with a diameter of 60 centimeters appeared, wrapping the entire generator. There is a delay. Zhou Yang frowned slightly. 2 seconds. If it is started in advance, it is fine. But if it is in the battle, this is a big loophole. There are 2 project leaders of the energy generator. One is Milson, an academician from the Academy of Sciences of the United States, and the other is Chen Jiaxu, a leading figure in the field of physics and electromagnetic research in China. Hearing Zhou Yang's words, Milson said in unskilled Chinese, "Yes, we have noticed this delay problem a long time ago, but it takes a certain amount of time to build the entire magnetic energy field. After many experiments and some optimizations, we still can't break through 2 seconds." Zhou Yang recalled the relevant technical information of the energy shield. These information were imprinted in his mind like a brand. Do you think it is still a problem of power? The explosion of the magnetic field takes time, but if the power is low, it will take longer to form a magnetic energy field. If the power is increased, perhaps this time will be shortened. Milson and Chen Jiaxu looked at each other and said, "I don't know about this. After all, we haven't completed the high power energy generator yet." At this time, the warrior conducting the experiment also came to the energy generator, holding a laser sword and slowly slashing it down. The slowly slashing laser sword came into contact with the blue energy shield, and the energy shield fluctuated sharply. In just 3 seconds, the energy shield disappeared with a pop. Chen Jiaxu and the others were a little embarrassed. This was really short and weak. Zhou Yang didn't say anything. Technology research and development is done step by step. There is no way to make a big splash right away. It's good that it disappeared now. It's just right to test the time required for restart. Restart. Zhou Yang ordered. The system restarted. The restart process is actually the process of recharging the generator and rebuilding the magnetic field. It took a full 11 seconds for the energy shield to reappear. -2 seconds. That is, it took nearly 10 seconds to complete the recharging. This time is a bit slow. However, Zhou Yang still remembered that Forkman's battleship did not recover immediately after the energy defense shield was broken. It seems that this thing really needs a long time of charging before it can be started again. So it can only be used as a disposable item. Once it is broken, don't resist, just abandon the ship. Attack faster this time. Zhou Yang said. The test soldier nodded and slashed with a sword. With a puff, the laser sword hit the energy shield, and the light flashed. After a moment of stalemate, the energy shield broke. The power is too small, the defense efficiency is really limited, and it can't stop the attack of the laser sword at all. However, the significance of this thing is to create something from nothing. The next step is to continuously optimize and increase the power. On September 20th, with the hard work of countless workers day and night, the shell of the first planetary interstellar battleship, which is also the original model, was finally completed. Don't look at it as just a shell, it is already amazing to be able to build it. According to the previous design, the total length is 4,600 meters, and the shell alone weighs 230,000 tons. If you look at it from the side, the shape of this battleship is a trapezoidal structure, narrow at the top and wide at the bottom, with a flat top, but the surface of the battleship is not smooth as a whole. The bulges in the subtle places are a compromise of the internal structure. However, this problem is not big because there is no air in space, and there is no need to consider aerodynamics. No matter how strange the shape is, it can still fly. On the construction site, hundreds of thousands of workers burst into cheers. Zhou Yang was also excited. The battleship of Forkman was only 100 meters long, and the longest battleship left by the Oma civilization at the base on the back of the moon was only a kilometer long. The battleship in front of them was nearly 5,000 meters long, and it was a huge monster. After everyone calmed down, Zhou Yang clapped his hands to attract the attention of many responsible persons, and then said, the successful completion of the outer shell is a milestone-like feat, but next, our task is still very heavy. We must hurry up and install the power system and propulsion system within 10 days. The responsible persons of all parties nodded solemnly. 10 days was really tight. At this time, a group of people came from a distance. The leader was Li Xianshu, who came up quickly and said apologetically, there was a meeting at the last minute, which delayed some time. How is it here? Is it finished? As he spoke, Li Xianshu also saw the huge monster in the huge dock. The entire dock is 5,200 meters long, 3,000 meters wide, and 300 meters deep. At the beginning, it took tens of thousands of construction workers to build this dock. Now the huge main body of the battleship is exposed on the ground for 4/5 black, just like a mountain range, running across Li Xianshu. I just saw it on the plane. It's so shocking. Wang Mizhao was also behind, and he said excitedly, can it fly? Wang Mizhao asked again. According to the decision of the emergency committee, the establishment and military parade of the Space Force will be held on the National Day of Country Z, which is 10 days later. At that time, not only will a large number of Zuanians appear, but this huge battleship will also be ready to appear. It is 100% impossible to be completely completed, but as long as it can fly and has a shell, it is enough. At least in the eyes of ordinary people, the powerful battleship has ascended to the sky. The confidence of ordinary people will be greatly improved. Chapter 386 The Shining Tribe. Zhou Yang nodded. I can guarantee that it will be able to fly into the sky on the day of the military parade. Wang Mizhao nodded and stopped asking questions. Time flies, and it is National Day. On this day, all entertainment activities in the virtual space are stopped. Everyone, whether you are offline, in reality, or in the virtual space, must watch the official live broadcast. Prisoner Island. The island where Forkman and his group were imprisoned was named Prisoner Island. Outside the island, warships cruised, and in the sky, several patrolling Zhuanians flew by from time to time, with strict guards. In the central area of the island, there are some camps and buildings. In one of the buildings, Gao Cheng was looking at the electron microscope carefully, recording and screening genes bit by bit. Mark these gene segments and focus on studying them later. Gao Cheng marked several gene segments on the screen, and said to his assistant. At this time, the door of the laboratory was pushed open and a lieutenant colonel walked in. Academician Gao, we are ready to set off. Do you have any other needs? The lieutenant colonel asked. The so-called need is to draw another tube of blood from these aliens. Of course, Gao Cheng did not abuse these aliens. In order to prevent them from suffering from anemia and problems with their blood samples, Gao Cheng also provided them with 3 meals a day, making them plump and white. Gao Cheng shook his head. He had already taken enough blood. After a pause, he said, "Can't you leave the sample number 76 for me?" After Gao Cheng arrived, he numbered and grouped all the aliens and interrogated them. After studying all the samples, Gao Cheng discovered a race. This is an extremely magical race in the universe. According to them, they are called the Shining Clan. There are not many Shining Clan people, and they are only a first-level civilization in the universe, but they have an extremely abnormal racial characteristic. After these Shining Clan people are born, their bodies are extremely fragile, their skin is tender, their physical strength is weak, and their height and body shape are extremely petite. However, after the Shining Clan enters adulthood, which, according to their concept of time, is about 20 years old on Earth, the Shining Clan's body will mutate. After several days of metamorphosis, their physical characteristics will change dramatically. First, the body size changes from 1.2 meters to about 1.8 meters, and the body size becomes larger accordingly. Also, the originally weak skin will grow hard and thick like scales. At the same time, the muscle tissue will become extremely developed, giving them great strength. Therefore, every one of the Shining people is an elite warrior after adulthood, and is the most popular race among the cosmic mercenaries. Moreover, some civilizations will even specifically capture the Shining people when they are young, and then train them from childhood. All these behaviors have led to a very small number of Shining people, especially pure-blooded ones. Coincidentally, there is an adult Shining person in Fokman's team. This kind of gene mutation greatly improves the physical condition in a very short period of time, which aroused Gao Cheng's interest, but the genes of the Shining people are too complicated. After studying for so long, Gao Cheng has only preliminarily screened out thousands of gene segments that may have caused the mutation of the Shining people. The lieutenant colonel smiled bitterly and said, "Academician Gao, the order I received is to transfer these alien prisoners to the target area for execution. If any of them is missing, I will not be able to complete the task. And I'm only a lieutenant colonel. You should not ask me for this matter, but the people above. These aliens have long been identified as criminals, and they are planned to be publicly executed during the military parade. This move has a bit of the flavor of ancient blood sacrifice. Then wait for me for 5 minutes." Gao Cheng said, took out his mobile phone, and called Zhou Yang. When Zhou Yang received the call, he was in the west suburb villa of BJ, preparing to leave. Chen Royan was helping Zhou Yang tie his tie, and Zhao Tong was running around next to him wearing Zhou Yang's suit. Taking the phone, Zhou Yang saw that it was Gao Cheng calling, and answered it directly, saying, "Academician Gao, what's the matter? Have you changed your mind? Are you ready to come to the scene?" Gao Cheng had been invited to BJ to attend the ceremony before, but he refused. Gao Cheng said, "Forget about the military parade, Mr. Zhao. I want to ask you a favor." He then told her about the Shining tribe. Zhou Yang's expression became serious. He signaled Chen Royan to stop, and then walked to the balcony outside the bedroom and said, "You mean, you want to crack the cause of the Shining tribe's genetic mutation, and then apply it to humans?" Although Zhou Yang had never opposed his research, Gao Cheng was not stupid. From Zhou Yang's tone and attitude, he could guess that Zhou Yang didn't really support his research. As for the reason, Gao Cheng thought that Zhou Yang might think that this kind of research was a taboo. Gao Cheng didn't think there was anything wrong with this. Everyone had their own considerations and ideas, and he thought it was okay. and Zhou Yang just didn't give his full support, but he still gave the support he should have. Gao Cheng said, "Mr. Zhao, the ultimate goal of my research is to improve the physical quality of human beings and make them more perfect." Zhou Yang smiled and said, "Gao Cheng, have you ever thought that what you call perfection is actually our own subjective definition? I don't know if you have seen a movie called Watchmen. Drive Manhattan. In it was originally an ordinary person, but he possessed the power of a god. In terms of life form, he can be said to be perfect, powerful, and wise, but he has lost the justice and humanity he should have. I give this example to illustrate that sometimes, the reason why humans are human is because of their imperfections. Some people are kind, some are evil, some are loving, and some are selfish. Thousands of different individuals make up human society." Gao Cheng fell into deep thought on the other end of the phone. "Of course," Zhou Yang continued, "you have your ideas. Since you want to do this research, I support you. The Shining Clan, right? I will notify them later and keep him." Zhou Yang's attitude towards Gao Cheng's project has always been not to fully support it, but to use it as a backup plan. What if one day Gao Cheng really develops something amazing, and after humans use it, everyone becomes a Superman? That's not impossible. It can be considered another kind of evolution. But this research is on the edge of taboos, and Zhou Yang has to warn him from time to time to prevent Gao Cheng from going astray. "Mr. Zhao, I understand. Thank you," Gao Cheng said gratefully. "No, are you really not coming? It's not too late to come now. We have prepared a large-scale cultural performance." Gao Cheng smiled and said, "Forget it, I'll just do my research." "Okay, you should take care of your rest. Research is important, but your health is more important," Zhou Yang reminded him again. "You too." Gao Cheng hung up the phone. Zhou Yang put down his phone, thought about it, and prepared to leave. Chapter 387 Public Execution. In front of the spacious square, colorful flags fluttered, flowers were everywhere, and people were surging, just like a sea of joy. There was only one signal for the global live broadcast, and that was the CCTV channel. The host Kang Hui said in a steady voice, "Coming towards us from a distance is the multinational joint force." In the distance, a red flag led the way, and in the back, a mighty, 1,000-man square team came with their heads held high. The leader was naturally the soldiers of Country Z, but they only occupied 1/10 of the square team. The most eye-catching thing was the multinational force composed of various countries in the back. Everyone was wearing the uniform of Country Z and marching in standard steps. Beautiful. What a beautiful scenery. This is the Celestial Empire, and all nations come to pay tribute. This is not a good thing to say. It affects unity and harmony. If you ask me, that is, the world is one family. Yours is mine, and mine is still mine. I never thought that I could see this scene in my lifetime. The country is really strong. In the virtual space, on various live broadcast channels, countless people from Country Z cheered, and a strong sense of honor and pride arose spontaneously. On the viewing platform, 7 members of the emergency committee besides Zhou Yang applauded. "Mr. Zhao, is everything okay?" the person in charge of Country Z asked in a low voice. Zhou Yang knew what he was worried about and smiled. "Don't worry, there will be no problem." In the suburbs of BJ, a military base, 4,600 meters long, the interstellar battleship codenamed Pangu is ready. Why is it called Pangu? It means Pangu created the world. The advent of this interstellar battleship will make mankind truly go to deep space, which is of great significance. Comrade Chief, all systems have been checked, and you can set off at any time. A colonel came to Wang Muzhao, saluted and said loudly. Wang Muzhao was wearing a military dress with medals on his chest. Looking at the huge Pangu battleship in front of him, his heart was also filled with pride. "Let's go." Wang Muzhao waved his hand and took the lead to step onto the Pangu battleship. A gust of cold wind instantly extinguished the pride in Wang Muzhao's heart when he saw the empty interior of the battleship. This thing is really just an empty shell. Wang Muzhao shook his head and smiled bitterly. From the outside, the black and grey Pangu warship is majestic and domineering. Anyone in front of it will feel so small. But when you walk in, you will find that the interior is empty. There is nothing except the supporting structure. There is not even a chair to sit on. Wang Muzhao and others can only stand. Forget it. Let's start from the foot of the Great Wall and take it step by step. Wang was house-eyed and ordered to set off. In the middle and rear of the warship, a total of 8 upgraded versions. The fusion device has reached a huge Surenshi with a diameter of 100 meters. All started and gushed out a huge amount of energy. The energy roared out like a dragon, driving a total of 4 curvature engines in front and behind. Under the amazing energy, the space within a radius of 3 kilometers of the warship seemed to be distorted, and the hard ground was affected and began to sink. The people around had already evacuated 5 kilometers away, looking back at the huge Pangu warship slowly rising into the air, and their hearts were shocked. If you don't see it with your own eyes, who dares to believe that such a behemoth can really fly? At this time, the Pangu warship did not have a command center. It was driven and controlled entirely by artificial intelligence. It slowed down and slowly headed for the military parade site. Military parade site. After the ground troops finished reviewing, Kang Hui's voice became heavy and he said, 3 months ago, there was an encounter in space. Our brave First Army soldiers, wearing Zhou Yang Mechas, faced the powerful alien warships and launched an attack without hesitation. The battle scene at the scene was also played on the huge big screen. In the deep space, one Zhou Yang after another oared towards the energy shield. The voices of the soldiers in the communication channel were also played. Damn it, I'm going to fight him. Old Qiu, go quickly, I'll hold him back, and I'll be the only one who dies. Easy. I fuck your ancestors. In the screen, the perspective of a Zhou Yang was played, and the driver roared and crashed into the alien fighter. Captain, you go, leave a seat for our brigade. When the battle was at the end, with only 12 Zhou Yangs left, a conversation was played. Yes, our brigade is the first all Zhou Yang brigade to be established, and the task of guarding the lunar base has also been given to us. We can die, but we can't lose our number. Captain, you go. As long as you are alive, our brigade can be rebuilt. Master, follow me, I will lead the way for you. There are many videos of this battle on the internet, all of which were shot by some observatories. But the video of the scene, the driver's perspective, is released for the first time. Everyone knows that the battle was so tragic that in just a few minutes, only 12 of the 115 Zhou Yangs were left. This is a Zhou Yang, the most powerful combat mecha in the world. And the bravery of the soldiers also infected everyone, moving everyone with tears in their eyes. At this time, Zubin's voice rang out. Bullshit, who do you think you are? Chief, what is the order? Attack with all your strength at all costs. Is there an order for us to retreat now? Since there is no order, then I will be a deserter if I retreat. Do you want me to be a deserter? Stop talking nonsense, die. But before you die, you have to kill a few more aliens for me, understand? The next moment, the remaining Zhou Yang rushed up one by one. One by one, they were blown up. On the viewing platform, Zhou Yang also took a deep breath and forced himself to hold back his excitement. These people fought to the death under his own orders. Although Zhou Yang knew that there would be no immortality in war, and they could only be sacrificed in that situation, he still felt regretful and sad every time he thought of it. Let us observe a minute of silence for these brave soldiers. They are heroes of all mankind. Kang Hui said in a deep voice. Everyone at the scene bowed their heads and began to mourn. A huge atmosphere of sadness was accumulating, and everyone seemed to be holding back a rage in their hearts that could not be vented. 1 minute later, the screen switched. A desolate land. In the camera, strange-looking aliens stood on the ground with their hands tied. Standing in the front was none other than Fokman. At this moment, Fokman was trembling all over, almost collapsing on the ground. He was supported by 2 Zhou Yangs next to him, and barely stood up. During these 3 months, he had good food and drink every day. Although he was imprisoned, Fokman was still very grateful in his heart. He was grateful that the Earthlings did not abuse them, but treated them, the prisoners of war, kindly in accordance with the covenant of universal civilization. Fokman even had a glimmer of hope to live. But Fokman never thought that the reason they had good food and drink was purely because Gao Cheng wanted to study them, fearing that they would die of anemia. And now, they were going to be executed. Fokman was filled with despair. Could this be the legendary fattening them up before killing them? Chapter 388 Pangu class battleship. Aliens. What are you doing? What else can you do? Execute them. Great job. That's what you should do. They killed so many of our soldiers. We must not let them go. In the virtual space, the crowd was excited, especially the Chinese. Those who died were the most elite pilots of the Zhou Yang, and more than 100 people died at once. At the military parade, the person in charge of Country Z stepped forward and said loudly, "Execution." On the camera, with the flash of laser guns, all the aliens fell to the ground. No one felt cruel. These were invaders and enemies who killed the soldiers who protected them. At the scene, and in the virtual space, countless people cheered and vented their anger. Kang Hui's low voice continued to sound. In order to deal with the threat from alien civilizations, all member states of the Confederation have passed a resolution by the Emergency Committee to formally establish the first Space Force on Earth. The first Space Force has 10 armies under its jurisdiction, plus logistics troops, with a full complement of 1.1 million people. Then next, please let us take a glimpse of the style of the first army of the Space Force. On the big screen, a desolate moon appeared. In front of the newly built lunar base red flags were flying, and 10,000 Zhuanians were lined up in full gear, standing solemnly. The camera swept across the land, densely packed, and a solemn atmosphere came over. This scene really shocked everyone, giving people a feeling of thousands of troops. At this time, all the Zhuanians were turned off. With the red flag rising, a full 10,000 Zhuanians started at the same time. Each Zhuanian, motionless and like a statue, suddenly lit up with a light blue light in its eyes. It was as if a sleeping dragon had awakened. Countless people cheered. Zhou Yang also applauded with everyone, feeling heroic. Kang Hui continued, "At the same time, the Space Force we have established will also have the first space fleet of mankind, so please raise your heads and look up to the sky." Tens of thousands of people at the scene looked up at the sky without knowing what was going on. The camera also turned to the sky. The sky was clear and the sun was shining. But the next moment, the sky suddenly darkened and was covered with dark clouds. Why is it dark? No, it's not dark. Look, what is that? Oh my god, it's so big, what is that? Then a shadow fell from the sky and gradually expanded, like a mountain falling from the sky. Countless people exclaimed. Although many senior officials present knew that the Pangu battleship would appear in today's military parade, they did not expect it to be so big. The huge Pangu battleship is 4,600 meters long, nearly 5 kilometers long, just like a mountain, slowly descending. Everyone in front of this Pangu battleship can't help but suffer from gigantic fear. Kang Hui's voice sounded. The next one to appear is our first Pangu class interstellar battleship. It is 4,600 meters long, has 2 super large laser main guns, and has 540 laser turrets. Inside the battleship, it also carries 20 interstellar fighter squadrons, a total of 240 interstellar fighters. These are all design data. However, it was too luxurious. The 2 super large laser main guns at the front were terrifyingly powerful, and then there were a total of 540 laser turrets, which were arranged on the top of the battleship. It was so dense that people could fully understand what firepower phobia was. Everyone at the scene was stunned and cheered. Interstellar battleship. We also have an interstellar battleship. At the science conference, Mr. Zhao said that we also wanted to build an interstellar battleship. I thought he was joking, but I didn't expect it to be built. Yes, such a big thing is like a mountain. How can it fly? I can't believe it. With this thing, who dares to invade the Earth? Hundreds of laser cannons are too crazy, but I like it. No matter, this thing looks so majestic. Let's build 100 of them first. If there is not enough money, I will donate money. Seeing this huge battleship really makes people feel invincible. If there were still people who were afraid of aliens before, and thought that the end of the world would come sooner or later, then at this moment, this fear is gone. Everyone wanted to roar. We have an interstellar battleship too. On the viewing platform, Scene opened his mouth wide, his eyes full of amazement, and said with emotion, "I can't imagine that this thing will be so huge. I just don't know how powerful it is. It must be very strong. Didn't it say in the introduction that it has hundreds of laser cannons?" Several people whispered and finally looked at Zhou Yang. The developer was standing in front of them, so what was there to guess? Mr. Zhou, how powerful is this battleship? Can a battleship destroy a planet like in the movie? Scene asked. Zhou Yang shook his head and said, how is it possible? Such a weapon is probably infinitely close to a super weapon. Hundreds of laser cannons can only fight space battles. It is too difficult to destroy a planet. I'm afraid that only super weapons can do it. Speaking of super weapons, Zhou Yang couldn't help but think of the Star Core. After bringing it back from Country M, it was handed over to Yu Rongming for a search for a long time, but there has been no breakthrough. The energy of this thing is amazing, but it is highly dense and cannot be used. I don't know how Minister Wang is doing, whether he is frozen. Zhou Yang looked up and couldn't help thinking. This thing in front of him was just an embroidered pillow and a bag of straw. There was not even a constant temperature system inside the warship. It landed from hundreds of kilometers in the air. Although it was well sealed, the temperature would probably be very low. The warship slowly hovered 500 meters above the ground. Inside the warship, Wang Mazhao and his party were so cold that their noses and tears came out, and there was frost on their eyebrows. Damn it, it's a good thing we don't have to show our faces, otherwise it would be really embarrassing. Wang Mazhao said tremblingly, Minister, since we don't have to show our faces, why do we still have to come up? A deputy next to him said shivering. Wang Mazhao was stunned and cursed inwardly. Yes, anyway, no one saw it. He was really crazy and had to come up to suffer. The huge Pangu warship hovered for a few minutes before slowly rising into the air and heading southwest, disappearing from everyone's sight. The military parade ended here. But the celebration was not over yet. Zhou Yang and his party also walked down the viewing platform and prepared to attend the banquet. As they were walking, Zhou Yang's cell phone suddenly rang. He took it out and saw that it was a call from the research institute. The call was connected, and a man's voice came from the phone. Mr. Zhou, our deep space detection system has discovered an unknown target near the moon. After mobilizing reconnaissance satellites for detection, it was found that it was the mysterious mecha you met on Mars last time. Zhou Yang was stunned. Kurosawa, this guy actually ran to the vicinity of the moon. What is he doing? Last time, Zhou Yang had warned him not to hang around the Earth and spy on the Earth. Otherwise he would regard him as an enemy. It seems that this guy did not listen to what he said, or he was too confident in his mecha, and felt that Zhou Yang could not detect him. Chapter 389 I turned a deaf ear to my words. The Deep Space Detection System is a prototype developed by Zhou Yang, based on the technical data provided by the system and the detection system of the Falkman battleship. It was completed as early as mid-September. The principle of this thing is somewhat similar to the main source magnetic gravitational field communication technology. The main source magnetic gravitational field communication technology uses the magnetic gravitational field to wrap signal information and transmit it quickly in the universe, while the detection system, on the other hand, captures the changes in the magnetic gravitational field to measure and detect the target. You must know that any object in the universe will generate gravity when it moves, but the magnitude of the gravity is the only difference. There are complete technical data and ready-made technical products for reference. In addition, the detection system on the Falkman spacecraft has no intellectual property protection. After disassembly, the same product was quickly copied, and then continuously optimized, and finally completed the detection system that meets Zhou Yang's needs. After measurement, this detection system can capture targets as far as 4.2 trillion kilometers away, and has a circular detection area with no blind spots of 360 degrees. 4.2 trillion kilometers sounds far, but in fact it is less than 0.5 light years. But it is enough for now, and we will upgrade it slowly in the future. Now this detection system is in the process of operation and testing. Kurosawa appeared near the moon, only 380,000 kilometers away from the ground, so of course he will be detected. Mr. Zhou, what's wrong? Scene noticed Zhou Yang, who was lagging behind, and took the initiative to come over and asked in unskilled Chinese. The others also stopped. Is there an accident? Asked the person in charge of country E. Zhou Yang nodded. Several people frowned, but the next moment, Zhou Yang smiled again and said, it's not a big deal. It's just that Kurosawa appeared again, and he even ran to the moon. I guess he is spying on us again. Zhou Yang has already reported Kurosawa's matter to the emergency committee, and everyone present knows it. What is the purpose of this Kurosawa? Is it really as simple as just observing us? The person in charge of country Z frowned and said. Scene snorted coldly and said, or this is just his rhetoric. I think his, or the Oma civilization's purpose is very simple, that is, to invade the earth, and occupy the earth again. When he couldn't make it outside, he remembered that he still had an ancestral house, but the ancestral house had a new owner. What should he do? He must find a way to drive the new owner away. Zhou Yang has also been thinking about the intentions of the Oma civilization these days. The Earth is about 40 light years away from the Oma civilization, and according to Kurosawa, the warships of the Decidin civilization have already arrived in the gravity zone. In this case, even if the Oma civilization really abandons Lucastar and returns to the Earth, the Decidin civilization will not let the Oma civilization go. The collision between the two civilizations must be a fight to the death, and there is no way to give the other side a chance to survive and breathe. If the Oma civilization escapes hundreds or thousands of light years away, it is still possible, but it is really unreasonable to withdraw to such a close Earth. Zhou Yang came back to his senses and said, no matter what his real purpose is, I warned him last time, but he ignored my words, so don't blame us for being rude. Several people looked at each other and nodded. That's right, he really treats our Earth as his own home. He comes whenever he wants. Since he dares to come, he must know the consequences. A murderous look flashed in the eyes of the person in charge of country Z. Then attack. It just so happens that there are our troops on the moon. Zhou Yang smiled. This time, Kurosawa was really lucky. He ran to the moon and ran into the Space Force reviewing. At this time, there were tens of thousands of Zuanians on the moon. The order was delivered to the moon as soon as possible. The troops on the moon now are the 1st Division of the 1st Army of the Space Force. The division commander Han Zhenjiang was also on the scene. The military parade has ended, and Han Zhenjiang has asked the troops to take it back. At this time, he received an order from the command center. What? Near the moon? So bold. Han Zhenjiang snorted coldly. On such an important day, aliens came to peek. How can we tolerate it? Qian Feng, the chief of staff of the 1st Division nearby, also saw the order and said, Old Han, we don't know the situation of the aliens. Should we make a plan before we act? Han Zhenjiang said, there is only one on the other side, and we have 10,000 people. If everyone spits on him, we can drown him. Qian Feng smiled bitterly and said, that's what he said, but these are aliens after all. We don't know what kind of technology and combat effectiveness they possess. It's better to be cautious. You don't want to let them get away. Han Zhenjiang pondered for a moment and said, then what do you say we should do? Qian Feng quickly said, the only thing we have to worry about now is that the other side will run away after we engage in battle with them. 10,000 people against one alien is a 100% sure win, so Qian Feng feels that once the war starts, the other side's first thought will be to break through and escape. Therefore, our main task is to block his retreat. If he wants to escape, he will definitely not go in the direction of the Earth, but will definitely flee to the edge of the solar system. We will let the 109th Regiment block him in the direction of his escape near the lunar synchronous orbit, and the 108th Regiment will block him in the direction of Venus. We have a lot of people. One regiment will take the main attack, and the remaining 8 regiments will all be put into the interception. We will set up a dragnet to make sure we block him. Han Zhenjiang nodded and said, then I will lead one regiment, and you will be responsible for commanding the remaining 8 regiments to intercept. Time is running out, so let's set off now. Qian Feng didn't waste any more words, and passed down the orders one by one. The regiments that received the order immediately began to assemble. Han Zhenjiang also arrived at the 1st regiment. The regiment commander Fan Jinshan greeted Han Zhenjiang and saluted him, saying, report to the division commander, the 101st Regiment. All 1075 people in the regiment are here, ready to go at any time. Han Zhenjiang nodded, and did not make any pre-war mobilization. He felt that, if 1,000 people could not even take down an alien, he would not have to be the division commander anymore, and could just go home and raise pigs. Let's go. Han Zhenjiang waved his hand, and more than 1,000 people quickly took off. In the communicator, the command center kept sending the detection location of the target, which was on the back of the moon. 10 seconds later, Hans and Yang and others arrived at the target airspace. The target is 5,000 kilometers ahead. 3 battalions will spread out in a triangular shape. After meeting the enemy, they will attack directly. Hans and Yang shouted. Thousands of Xuanians rushed directly to Kurosawa. On the back of the moon, there is a lunar base left by the Oma civilization. The things inside the base have basically been emptied, and there is no plan to reuse them for the time being, so they are idle here. At this time, in front of the cut black door, 2 industrial robots are standing motionless, in standby mode, and thousands of meters away from the base, on the top of a mountain, Kurosawa, wearing a silver mecha, is quietly looking in this direction. Suddenly, Kurosawa was startled, and quickly turned his head to look in the direction of Hans and Yang and others. His face changed slightly, and Kurosawa soared into the sky, and disappeared on the spot. Chapter 390 Super Firepower. Kurosawa's movements were immediately detected by the detection system. Oh no, the other party has discovered us and is running. Hans and Yang's face changed slightly. Looking up, Hans and Yang had already seen the silver figure rising into the sky thousands of kilometers away. The intelligent program had quickly begun to calculate the other party's movement trajectory. Everyone, shoot! Hans and Yang shouted. Thousands of people slowed down and stopped at the same time, aiming at the designated area and shooting. Kurosawa's mecha performance exceeded Xuanian by a lot, but no matter how fast it was, it could not be faster than the speed of light. In an instant, thousands of laser bullets, like a rain curtain, cut through the sky and shot at Kurosawa. And it was not just one, but one per second. The massive laser beam bullets covered the sky and almost illuminated the entire starry sky. Kurosawa, who was fleeing, turned his head and was stunned instantly. Is this going to kill people? Kurosawa screamed, and he had no time to react before he was drowned by the laser beam bullets in the sky. Bang bang bang. The silver mecha on Kurosawa's body kept trembling, and the laser beam bullets shot at him. The surface of the mecha began to ripple like water, reducing the power of the laser beam bullets. But there were too many attacks, almost densely covered, and there was no possibility of dodging. In an instant, Kurosawa was hit at least hundreds of times. And this is not over yet. Just after enduring one wave of attacks, the next wave of attacks came again. As for it, I'm alone, and you sent so many people to besiege me. Kurosawa cursed. His mecha performance is strong, but it is also limited. Last time, it was a bit difficult to deal with 12 runaway Xuanians. Now, this is not 120, but thousands. With full power, Kurosawa's speed increased to the limit. At this time, stopping will only kill him, and the only way is to rush out. At the extreme speed, a large number of laser beam bullets were left behind by Kurosawa, but he was still hit by many, because the speed of the laser beam bullets was too fast. Some areas of the silver mecha on Kurosawa's body could no longer withstand the continuous attacks. The metal properties of the surface armor began to change, and could no longer be liquefied to reduce the power. There were also cracks like scales on it. However, Kurosawa's speed was too fast. In just a few seconds, he had rushed out 20,000 kilometers and approached the synchronous orbit of the moon. And Hans and Yang's group behind him had been left behind because they had to stop shooting. Escaped. Kurosawa was overjoyed. But at this moment, there was a sudden flash of light in front of him, and a galaxy with shining stars seemed to fall from the sky. Looking at it carefully, Kurosawa was scared to death. This is not a galaxy at all. The little bit of starlight is simply laser beam bullets. Because there are too many of them, they are intertwined together to form a scene comparable to the galaxy. At this moment, there were 3 groups attacking Kurosawa. Kurosawa was almost desperate. His mind was full of one thought: how many people on Earth had been dispatched to hunt him down? There must be thousands. As for him, he was just one person. Facing such an attack, there was no way to avoid it. Kurosawa had no time to react, and was overwhelmed by the sky-high attack. Behind them, Hans and Yang also chased after them. In another direction, the remaining 5 regiments were also moving towards this side. After 2 rounds of attacks, Hans and Yang called a halt. The order he received was to capture as many alive as possible. At this time, the other 5 regiments also arrived. The explosion light caused by the laser beam slowly dissipated, revealing Kurosawa with a broken mecha. There were cracks in many places on the entire mecha, but it was not completely damaged. Otherwise, Kurosawa would have died. Kurosawa looked up, and his heart sank instantly. He saw Zuanians everywhere. How many should there be? Tens of thousands. Kurosawa opened his mouth wide. He never thought that the Earth would send out tens of thousands of mechas to chase him. If he had known this, he would never have come to the moon. I surrender. Kurosawa raised his hands directly. He knew that this was the Earth's surrender gesture. BJ. At the state banquet, the guests took their seats, and the head of country Z was giving a speech on the stage. At this time, Zhou Yang's phone vibrated. He took it out, and saw that it was a message from the command center. The target has been captured alive, and is being taken to Earth for detention. Zhou Yang smiled slightly, and put away his phone. He dispatched tens of thousands of mechas to capture Kurosawa. If he hadn't caught him yet, the combat effectiveness of these tens of thousands of mechas would really be questionable. The successful conclusion of the military parade greatly boosted the confidence of ordinary people. Through monitoring of relevant internet comments, it was found that the mainstream public opinion was to gather the power of human beings around the world, grow stronger, and resolutely resist the invasion of aliens. Of course, there were also some other comments, and some even said that they should surrender and let aliens rule the Earth. Zhou Yang didn't care about these comments. He knew that at any time, humans could not really be of one mind. As long as the mainstream public opinion was correct, it would be fine. After the military parade, the construction of the Pangu-class battleship officially entered the right track, and the systems began to be installed in an orderly manner. Prison Island. Zhou Yang arrived, and met Kurosawa in the heavily guarded prison. Kurosawa looked depressed, and even more depressed, when he saw Zhou Yang. He sighed and said, "We are from the same planet, and we are very similar. We can say that we are one civilization. I have no intention of spying on you." "That's enough." Zhou Yang interrupted Kurosawa. "What about coming from the same planet, the same civilization, etc. All bullshit, just to make people happy." How could Zhou Yang take it seriously? Zhou Yang said, "I warned you last time on Mars, but you didn't listen to my warning, and insisted on coming to the moon. Then I had no choice but to capture you." Kurosawa sighed again and said, "Okay, I'm your prisoner now. How do you want to deal with me?" Zhou Yang asked, "I just have one question. What is the real purpose of your Oma civilization sending you back to the solar system?" Kurosawa said, "I have already answered this question for you. It is the evacuation plan prepared by our administrator. I'm a member of the mission. As for the rest, I really don't know." Zhou Yang looked at the staff next to him. "Mr. Zhao, the polygraph shows that he is telling the truth. The people of the Oma civilization are highly similar to the people on Earth, so Zhou Yang thinks that the polygraph should also work on Kurosawa." The simple test before Zhou Yang came proved that the polygraph is still very accurate. But Zhou Yang still doesn't believe that the Oma civilization will implement such a stupid evacuation plan. Or, as Kurosawa said, he only knows so much, and he is not qualified to know some inside stories. Chapter 391 Driver Screening. Zhou Yang did not order the execution of Kurosawa. After leaving the prison island, Zhou Yang returned to the research institute. At the research institute, the preliminary detection results of Kurosawa's silver mecha also came out. Intelligent program, high strength armor, internal life support system, nuclear fusion power, curvature engine, and the technical standards of Zuanian are almost the same. It's just that the curvature engine is more efficient and better designed. Also, the metal used in the armor has a very special property. When it is powered on, the metal structure will change under the action of ions and become liquid. It has extremely strong toughness and is resistant to extremely high temperatures. It is very efficient in defending against laser weapons, just like a non-Newtonian fluid. Looking at the information of the intelligent program, this metal is called mecha-alloy, which is a unique technology of the Oma civilization. Unfortunately, we don't know the formula. If we want to reverse engineer it, it may take a long time to experiment. Zhou Yang remembered the carrier-based aircraft that Kurosawa took. According to him, He stayed on Uranus all year round, so this carrier-based aircraft should be on Uranus. However, Uranus is too far away from the Earth, a full 2.8 billion kilometers. Has the upgraded Zhou Yang been offline at the Northern Industry? Zhou Yang asked. Li Bingxuan nodded and said, it should be offline. After the Surenchi upgrade, Zhou Yang immediately ordered it to be applied to the Zhou Yang, so there was an upgraded version of the Zhou Yang, which greatly increased the speed to 12,000 kilometers per second. At full speed, 1 hour is 43 million kilometers. The Earth is 2.8 billion kilometers away from Uranus, and it takes 70 hours to reach it. Not long, but not short. The key is that the distance is so far that it is not convenient to transmit information. If something goes wrong, there is no time for rescue. But this carrier-based aircraft also has great research value and cannot be wasted. Go, call Zubin and he's in over. Zhou Yang ordered. 2 hours later, Zubin and Heezin appeared in front of Zhou Yang. Zhou Yang is still very familiar with this pair of master and apprentice. Now Zubin has been promoted to colonel and is the captain of the special brigade of the Space Force. His rank is not particularly high, but his status is not low. This special brigade also refers to the construction ideas of the special forces, emphasizing the combat capability of individual soldiers, and the training subjects will be more rigorous. So although it is a special brigade, it is a military level unit, directly under the 1st Space Force. And he's in. This ordinary girl has grown up a long time ago. Now her military rank is major, the captain of the special brigade, heroic and experienced. The two saluted Zhou Yang, and Zubin smiled and asked, Mr. Zhou, is there any special mission again? Being able to find the two of them, and Zhou Yang personally found them, it is obvious that there is a special mission. Zhou Yang nodded, waved to the two, came to the holographic projection, and said, your mission is to go to Uranus and search for an alien carrier-based aircraft on Uranus. After finding it, check the condition of the carrier-based aircraft. If it can still take off, that's the best. If not, you will drag it back. Zubin nodded vigorously and said loudly, make sure to complete the mission. Let's go and see your new equipment. Zhou Yang took the two to the next door, where two brand new Zhou Yangs have been tested, and can be used at any time. Mr. Zhou, is this the new model? Zubin's eyes lit up. The new model of Zhou Yang does not look much different from the original Zhou Yang, but Zubin noticed that there was a thick diamond-shaped shield on the shoulder of Zhou Yang. Heezin next to him said, Mr. Zhou, why did you add a shield? It looks a bit bulky. When fighting in the high-speed form of the mecha, flexibility is required. Although there will be no wind resistance in space with such a large shield, it still has a certain impact on flexibility. Zhou Yang said, this shield is an experimental external equipment. It will be upgraded and modified in the future. Now it is temporarily used. Its main function is to activate an energy shield. Although the strength is not high, it can resist a laser sword attack at a critical moment, and it can also resist several attacks from a laser gun. Zubin's eyes lit up, and he asked quickly, Mr. Zhou, is the energy shield you are talking about the shield used by the alien warship last time? Zubin was too impressed by the energy shield. It was because of that energy shield that many people died. Zhou Yang nodded and said, yes, it is that thing, but the technology is not mature yet. Resisting a laser sword attack and several laser gun attacks can only be said to be better than nothing, and the help is limited. Zubin smiled and said, I believe Mr. Zhou will do better and better in the future. Okay, get ready and go. Zhou Yang waved his hand and got up to leave. Speaking of carrier-based aircraft, Zhou Yang remembered something. The construction of the Pangu class battleship has been put on track, and the development of carrier-based aircraft is also being carried out simultaneously. The final plan is to adopt the design of Dassault Company of Country F. Of course, the final plan is not as crazy as the several plans proposed by Dassault Company later, but the first version, a main body, 16 small spheres, 8 thrusters, 8 laser cannons, more reasonable structure, and sufficient firepower. This is a carrier-based aircraft, and there is no need to have abnormal firepower. The development process is still relatively smooth, and it is expected that the prototype should be manufactured in early November. In this way, the selection of carrier-based aircraft pilots will also be put on the agenda. In Zhou Yang's vision, the brainwave access method will be adopted, just like crossing Cheyenne. The reason for this design is mainly to consider the combat environment of carrier-based aircraft. Under atmospheric conditions, the speed of fighter jets is extremely limited, but it is different in space. The design speed of this carrier-based aircraft has reached 24,000 km per second. At such a speed, the driver's reaction speed is put forward astonishingly. The conditioned reflex of the muscles is simply too late. Only with brainwave access, after training, can one receive information from intelligent programs and respond quickly. This alone is not enough. To become a qualified pilot, one must also have an amazing reaction speed and the ability to quickly handle various emergencies. Just like when Izin was selected, this thing really requires a certain amount of talent. Fuxi. Zhou Yang called out. Sir. Fuxi appeared. Zhou Yang said, you design a game of fighter jets fighting in space, set the difficulty, and the specific design requirements, all in accordance with the simulation of carrier-based aircraft combat, and then run it in virtual space. And not only do you have to select carrier-based aircraft pilots, but you also have to select people with certain command talents. In Zhou Yang's opinion, carrier-based aircraft combat should not be a swarm of chaos, but also cluster combat, so the commander's ability is also extremely important. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 392 Mr. Ma, someone is plagiarizing us. Tencent headquarters is holding a summary meeting for the third quarter. In the third quarter, our game revenue increased by 16%, and many games have been launched, especially the game National Star Battlefield. The early test went well, and the number of users has exceeded 1.6 billion. Once the game mall is opened, it will definitely become a hit game in the fourth quarter. The director of applications stood up and reported. Ma Huateng nodded with satisfaction. Nowadays, the whole people are in the virtual world. In order to reduce social management costs, the country also encourages the development of virtual space. In virtual space, the most popular thing is always games. It can be said that everyone plays games. As the world's largest game company, it would be strange if Tencent did not make money. Just now, taking advantage of the popularity of Aliens, it launched a 100-player interstellar battle game in the National Star Battlefield, which was a big hit. After 3 months of testing and operation, the number of registered users has exceeded 1.6 billion. This is definitely the rhythm of a hit. Aliens and interstellar wars are hot topics now. Many people on the internet are clamoring for global conscription and going to war with aliens. We can use this angle to take advantage of the popularity and find a promotion point to make this game a national game. In the fourth quarter, this game will be the main promotion. You must operate it well for me. Do you understand? Ma Huateng said. Everyone nodded. At this time, a beautiful woman ran in hurriedly, looking panicked, and shouted, Boss Ma, something big has happened. Everyone was shocked, and Ma Huateng also frowned and scolded. Why are you so flustered? The aliens haven't called yet. Tell me, what's the matter? The beautiful secretary took 2 deep breaths and said, Boss Ma, we just received a notice from Matrix Network that our game Interstellar Battlefield for All has been removed from the shelves. What? Ma Huateng, who had just shouted calmly, was completely uncalm and stood up. Everyone present also changed their faces. It hasn't become a hit yet, but it has been removed from the shelves. What's going on? The beautiful secretary said, it's true. Our game is no longer available. The backend access data port has also been blocked. The Matrix Network sent an email, but they didn't tell us the specific reason. How could this happen? Ma Huateng sat back blankly. Nowadays, any game developed by any game company in the world, after passing the review, will be submitted to the Matrix Network, and the management fee will be paid. The Matrix Network will put the game on the virtual space and open the port before it can be officially operated. In other words, the Matrix Network, or it will soon become the Virtual Space Administration, strangles the necks of global game companies. Why? The operations director slammed the table and shouted, That's right, it's not like we haven't paid the management fee. We still signed a contract for 3 years. They are unilaterally breaching the contract, and they didn't notify us in advance. They directly took the game off the shelves. Who will be responsible for the losses caused? Ma Huateng glanced at everyone, especially the last one, thinking that they are the official, the government, the rule maker, and you dare to question them and use the contract as an excuse. You are courting death. After waving his hands weakly to signal everyone to be quiet, Ma Huateng said, "Stop talking. I'll contact Matrix Network to see what's going on." As he spoke, Ma Huateng quickly called Director Hong, who was in charge of the operation of Matrix Network. "Hello, Director Hong, I have something to ask. Why is our game, the Universal Interstellar Battlefield, suddenly removed from the shelves?" Ma Huateng didn't bother to be polite and asked directly. Everyone present also pricked up their ears to listen. On the other end of the phone, Director Hong said blankly, "It's removed from the shelves. How come I don't know?" "You don't know?" Ma Huateng was even more confused. Director Hong was in charge of taking the game off the shelves and putting it on the shelves. How could you not know? Director Hong said, "Don't worry, Mr. Ma. I'll check what's going on first to see if there is any misunderstanding." After speaking, he hung up the phone. Ma Huateng frowned. This matter was even more strange. Everyone present also looked at each other in confusion. A few minutes later, the phone rang. Ma Huateng picked it up quickly and asked, "Director Hong, what's going on?" Director Hong said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Ma. The game you mentioned has indeed been removed from the shelves. As for the reason, I don't know." Ma Huateng's eyes widened, and he said quickly, "Director Hong, don't joke. If you don't know, who else knows?" Director Hong said, "What you said is wrong. I'm just a small director. There are many things I don't know." In Ma Huateng's eyes, Director Hong has amazing power and almost controls the lifeline of major game companies. But in the eyes of the higher-ups, Director Hong is nothing. He is not even a regular official. After saying that, Director Hong lowered his voice and said, "Mr. Ma, I advise you to remove this battlefield game. Let me tell you, your game is the background of the virtual space and was directly removed from the shelves." After saying this, he hung up the phone. Ma Huateng put down the phone in a daze. "Boss Ma, what's going on?" "That's right, why did they block our game?" Ma Huateng frowned. From what Director Hong said, it seemed that the game was not blocked by the virtual network, but by the background of the virtual space. This background probably refers to the artificial intelligence program that controls the operation of the entire virtual space. Although this intelligent program is not fugacy, it has amazing authority and is not something that ordinary people can control. It may not even have control or authority over the Matrix network. If the game was directly removed from the shelves by the intelligent program, it means one thing, that this game was removed from the shelves by the instructions of the higher-ups. Ma Huateng took a breath and frowned, thinking that it was because the popularity of the alien war had offended the higher-ups, so it was removed from the shelves. This is entirely possible. According to Ma Huateng's thinking, at this time, according to the intention of the higher-ups, the influence of aliens must be downplayed, but he just made a game of interstellar battles. Isn't this singing the opposite of the higher-ups? If not you, who else will be the one to be punished? But what made Ma Huateng depressed was why he didn't do it earlier. Now the game has been operating for several months, and he has invested a lot of money, but now it's all gone down the drain. Is this the legendary fattening up before killing? Ma Huateng muttered to himself depressedly. However, at this point, Ma Huateng could only accept the fact that the game was removed from the shelves. Even if he had 100 guts, he would not dare to go against the higher-ups. Just as he was about to speak, another person stumbled in. "Zhou Yang, why are you here?" The operations director was stunned. The newcomer was also an operator. Zhou Yang said breathlessly, "Mr. Ma, we just found out that another game has been put on the shelves in the virtual space. It is exactly the same as our game. It is called the National Star Battlefield. Mr. Ma, someone is plagiarizing us." Chapter 393, a completely different game. As soon as these words came out, everyone present was stunned. Especially Ma Huateng, who was stunned, as if he couldn't believe what he heard. It has always been him who copied others. When will it be his turn for others to copy him? Who? Which company? Is it NetEase? The operations director slammed the table and shouted. Zhou Yang shook his head and said, I don't know. There is no indication of what game company developed it. And I found something even more amazing. That is, I can log into this game directly with my account. As soon as these words came out, there was another exclamation at the scene. It's okay to plagiarize, but even their accounts were copied. That's not right. How can our accounts log into their games? Ma Huateng reacted and said in confusion. Zhou Yang shook his head. He was completely confused now. Not long ago, the game was suddenly removed from the shelves, and many players, especially those Zinyu bosses, called the customer service phone to ask what was going on. But after this plagiarized game was put on the shelves, all these questioning players disappeared because they found that their accounts could log into the game again. Let's go into the virtual space, Ma Huateng said hurriedly. There were virtual helmets in the conference room, as well as Ma Huateng's exclusive virtual warehouse. Everyone logged into the virtual space and appeared in the Tencent headquarters building in the virtual space. Tencent also spent a lot of money to build a sci-fi twin skyscraper in the SZ main city of Z country inside the virtual space. At this time, everyone appeared in the top floor conference room of this virtual skyscraper. At this time, a pop-up window suddenly appeared in front of everyone who had just entered the virtual space. National Star Battlefield, a hot-blooded fighting game. Looking forward to your joining. Ma Huateng's face changed instantly. GM pop-up window. The operations director exclaimed, which company is this that is so willing to spend money? The so-called GM pop-up window is that the background of the virtual space directly sends out advertising information, and everyone in the virtual space will receive the advertising information as soon as possible. The promotion effect of this can be described as explosive. But at the same time, the fees are also shockingly high, and the promotion content must be reviewed. Those advertisements that affect social harmony are 100% out of the question. At the same time, in order to avoid large-scale promotion and affect the normal operation of the virtual space, this pop-up window also stipulates the time. It will only be promoted once a week, and it is not a 24-hour pop-up window, but 24 pop-ups a day, 30 seconds each time. Of course, the cost of one time is also outrageous, starting at 1 billion yuan. However, no matter how expensive the price is, the companies queuing for appointments have already lined up for several years. Because it is a forced pop-up in the background and cannot be turned off, it is jokingly called a GM pop-up window. Ma Huateng's expression is solemn. The opponent is very strong. It is not enough to copy the game. Direct GM pop-up promotion. This blatant plagiarism is completely intolerable. And not only the GM pop-up window, but also all the system windows are all promotions for this game. Damn it. Ma Huateng was so angry that he wanted to slam the table. He looked through the manufacturers of this game, but in the manufacturer column, it was blank, nothing. Even this game has no customer service, and there is no content related to the manufacturer. Log into the game. Ma Huateng was shocked and planned to log into the game to see. Everyone nodded and logged into the game one after another. Ma Huateng had also tried this game and logged into his old account. He was shocked to find that he could really log into the game directly. Seeing this, Ma Huateng was dumbfounded. These account information are all Tencent's database, stored in the virtual space. Theoretically, it is extremely safe and no one can steal it, because since the emergence of the virtual space, there has never been a theft of data information. But the scene in front of him clearly showed that Tencent's user database had been stolen. At this time, his eyes went dark and the game started. The familiar game interface can be said to be exactly the same, and even the content of the game announcement is Tencent's game activities. There are even words that Tencent has the final right of interpretation. Ma Huateng was so angry that he trembled all over. This plagiarism was too unscrupulous. Gritting his teeth, Ma Huateng chose the matching game. This game is a battle of 100 people in space, driving mechas and fighters to fight. The huge battlefield will continue to shrink, and finally the winner will be decided. The matching speed is very fast. In a flash, Ma Huateng appeared on a desolate planet. Surrounded by players, there are more players joining. Hey, why can't I choose a mech soldier? Someone nearby asked in surprise. That's right, where is the mech skin I bought? Why is it gone? You don't know yet, this game seems to have changed. I just went offline for a while, and I couldn't find this game in the game list. Then I don't know why, it can be played again now. It should be that the game has been upgraded. I just started a game, and the mechas don't seem to work. I can only use carrier-based aircraft, and the styles of carrier-based aircraft are unified, like a ball, just flying carrier-based aircraft to fight. And the operation of carrier-based aircraft is super complicated. I haven't figured it out yet, and I've been killed several times. Alas, I don't know what Tencent is doing. This upgrade is not fun anymore. The players around were talking about it. Mahua Teng frowned, a little confused. Since they had copied so much without any bottom line, why did they change the game content again? And they spent so much money on publicity, what the hell was going on? For a moment, Mahua Teng couldn't figure it out, and at this time, the game was also opened. There was no cutscene. Mahua Teng remembered that there should be an opening animation in this place. All players were in the interstellar battleship, and then they broke into the battlefield. The commander gave them a pre-station mobilization with saliva flying, and then asked them to choose their own equipment to fight on the battlefield. But now, it was directly emitted. Mahua Teng's eyes went dark, and he appeared in a carrier-based aircraft. In front of him was a holographic transparent cockpit with a 360-degree panoramic view, and he could see the scene outside. The entire carrier-based aircraft, as the player said before, turned into a ball, and it was a big ball, with 16 small balls around it, which was extremely ugly. The surrounding scene was also very familiar. It was the most classic space map. In the distance, there was the blue Earth. At this moment, a sharp alarm sounded. Enemy aircraft is detected approaching at the 7 o'clock position, 18,000 kilometers away. Please dodge in time. You have been locked, and the other party has opened fire. The next moment, a scorching light filled Mahua Teng's vision, and his eyes went black. Mahua Teng just died, exited the game, and returned to the initial interface. What the hell? What's going on? Mahua Teng was confused. Chapter 394 Super Hardcore Game. After hesitating for a while, Mahua Teng started another game. This time, after the game started, Mahua Teng quickly started the carrier-based aircraft and moved. Although there was no joystick, Mahua Teng found that the operation was very simple. With a thought, he could move in one direction. So fast. This movement scared Mahua Teng. The speed of the carrier-based aircraft was too fast. It was almost like being chased by a dog as soon as it started. Although there was no obvious reference in the vast starry sky, Mahua Teng clearly felt the overload. Yes, it was overload. It felt like a big stone was pressing on my chest, and even breathing became difficult. Moreover, the field of vision of my eyes began to shrink, and the surrounding starlight became blurred. It could be clearly seen that it was moving away from the Earth. Mahua Teng hurriedly stopped and gasped. Although it was uncomfortable, the excitement brought by the rapidity was intoxicating. At this moment, a prompt sound rang in my ear. The enemy aircraft was detected approaching. Then it was fired. My eyes went dark, and Mahua Teng died again. Back to the initial interface, Mahua Teng was a little crazy. He found that this game was completely different from the original one. Of course, the skin was still exactly the same. What the hell? Mahua Teng was even more confused. If he could make this game, why didn't he promote it himself? After all, he had already spent a lot of money on the GM pop-up window. Unable to figure it out, Mahua Teng was too lazy to think about it, because he suddenly became very interested in this game. The main reason was that the feeling of flying a carrier-based aircraft in space was too cool. Restart and enter the game. Mahua Teng drove the carrier-based aircraft and started to fly wildly. At the same time, Mahua Teng also began to check other operations, such as the holographic interface in front of him, which showed the situation of the carrier-based aircraft. The speed reached an astonishing 24,000 kilometers per second. Mahua Teng found that he was not wrong. It was 24,000 kilometers, and it was still per second. At this speed, isn't it more than 80 million kilometers? And this speed is not fake, it is real. For example, in just over 10 seconds, Ma Huateng ran from the Earth to the moon. Then there is the energy shield. Ma Huateng had just noticed this thing, and only then did he know that it had to be turned on actively. After choosing to turn it on, a light blue light curtain enveloped the entire carrier-based aircraft. Ma Huateng then understood why he had died with one shot before, because he had not activated the energy shield. Then there were the weapons, 8 laser cannons, firing 1 shot per second, with unlimited range. At the same time, this carrier-based aircraft also has a detection system with a detection range of 100,000 kilometers. With the fire control system, it can find the target and attack immediately. Too hardcore. Ma Huateng exclaimed in his heart. At this moment, the detection system detected the target, 90,000 kilometers away. After hesitating for a moment, Ma Huateng quickly began to approach. The carrier-based aircraft has a super auxiliary system. Even if it is 90,000 kilometers away, after detecting the opponent's carrier-based aircraft quickly appears in front of Ma Huateng. At the same time, the fire control system began to track and try to lock. At this time, the opponent obviously also discovered Ma Huateng and realized that he was locked and began to maneuver frantically. Ma Huateng realized that shooting was not a simple matter, especially in this ultra high speed moving state. Because the speed of carrier-based aircraft is extremely fast, running more than 20,000 kilometers in 1 second, and although the turret can rotate 360 degrees, it takes time to rotate and lock, even if the speed is very fast. In this short period of time, the opponent may have run thousands of kilometers. If the distance is tens of thousands of kilometers, the impact of the shooting range is still smaller, but if it is close, the opponent may disappear in the shooting range in an instant. So Ma Huateng's first round of attack was directly shot in vain. At this time, the opponent also launched an attack. The turret is a ball that can rotate 360 degrees, so it can attack from behind while moving. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Laser cannons shot one after another. In an instant, Ma Huateng's energy shield dropped by 39%. Frightened, Ma Huateng hurriedly pulled up and fled. But the opponent's attack was like a storm, pouring down. Ma Huateng, who was not familiar with the operation, soon had his energy shield destroyed, and the carrier-based aircraft was destroyed again. After exiting the game, Ma Huateng played another game. He suffered from his lack of experience and slow reaction, and was defeated again. This time, he played for more than an hour. When he received a communication request from the real world, Ma Huateng came to his senses and exited the virtual space with a sense of unsatisfaction. It turned out that the company's senior management could not contact Ma Huateng in the game, so they had to exit the virtual space and contact Ma Huateng from outside. Mr. Ma, this game is different from ours. Yes, I tried it twice, and it almost completely changed our game. And this game is very hardcore. I played a few games, and it feels very interesting. Yes, the carrier-based aircraft runs very fast, which is very cool. The map is also very large. I ran to the sun in one breath, and was sunburned to death. Ma Huateng nodded and said, this game is good. Although it is a little difficult to get started, it is realistic, and gives people a feeling of fighting in space. I don't know which company made it. Mr. Ma, what should we do now? Although the internal game content of this game is different, the game name and the initial interface are completely copied from ours. The key is that our account can actually log into the game directly. This is 100% a game data leak. It would be fine if the game data leak was not mentioned. Ma Huateng remembered this fatal thing when it was mentioned. Ma Huateng wanted to contact Matrix Network to check the matter again, but thinking carefully about Director Hang's attitude, it seemed that there was something unusual behind this matter, and he hesitated for a while. At this moment, the beautiful secretary suddenly ran in again, waving her phone and said, Boss Ma, even Mr. Zhou is promoting our game, check it out. Mr. Zhou. Ma Huateng was startled and quickly took the phone, only to find that it was Douyin. It was Zhou Yang's Douyin account, which posted a video. In the video, Zhou Yang should be sitting in the office checking documents, and a voice appeared next to him, saying, Mr. Zhou, the camera is adjusted. It should be Zhou Yang's secretary, who helped him adjust the position of the camera on the phone. Then Zhou Yang responded, and then turned to the phone and said, in the virtual space, a game has been launched. Fuchsy, what's it called? Fuchs's voice suddenly sounded, sir, it's called the National Interstellar Battlefield. Zhou Yang nodded, turned to the camera again, and said, yes, it's this National Interstellar Battlefield game. Both men and women, aged between 18 and 40, can play this game. In a month, it is possible that some of the players of this game will be selected to become carrier-based aircraft pilots on the Pangu-class battleship. Okay, that's it. Please work hard. Then, the video was gone. Ma Huateng and everyone present were all dumbfounded. At this moment, Ma Huateng completely understood why his game was suddenly removed from the shelves. It turned out that Zhou Yang had copied it. Chapter 395 Arrival at Uranus. The video that Zhou Yang released quickly surpassed 1 billion views and received hundreds of millions of comments. The comment section was filled with excitement. Fuck, you can become a carrier-based aircraft pilot by playing a game. Is it so casual? Casual. Please go play this game yourself. It's super difficult. Okay. I was wondering why this game seemed to be different all of a sudden. I thought Tencent upgraded it. It turned out that this game was redesigned. It felt so real. When I played it, it turned out that it was selecting pilots. Doesn't that mean that, if you play this game well, you can become a carrier-based aircraft pilot, directly recruited? Damn, I'm so excited. I won't say anything. I'm going to play games. Go to the virtual space quickly. This game has been updated. There is a ladder ranking, showing the top 100. I guess if you get on the ladder, you should be able to become a pilot. I just don't know what the benefits of this pilot are. What are the benefits? You should know if you use your, but to think about it, it must be good. This is a pilot, and a carrier-based aircraft pilot, the first batch in the world. It's a pity if the benefits are not good. I don't care about benefits at all. I just want to fight aliens. Relevant media reported it as soon as possible. The game of National Interstellar Battlefield instantly became a hot word around the world. Originally, the number of registered users of this game had reached 1.5 billion, and after Zhou Yang released this video, the number of registered users instantly exceeded 3 billion. People who aspire to become pilots have rushed to the ladder. In the vast universe, two Zhuanians are moving at full speed. It is Zubin and Hezin. Master, are aliens really that powerful? Hezin asked. The distance is too far. At this time, Zhuanian is in cruising mode and controlled by artificial intelligence. The journey is too long, and it will take 70 hours. The two are also chatting. Zubin said, why, are you scared? Hezin shook his head and said, it's not that I'm scared, but I feel that Mr. Zhou and others seem to be very scared. Zubin was stunned and asked in surprise, how do you know? Hezin said, it's not that I know, it's that I feel. Master, when have you ever seen Mr. Zhou so devoted to work? No. In my impression, Mr. Zhou has always been elegant and calm, no matter what he does. Zubin nodded in agreement. Zhou Yang used to seem to have everything planned out. But now, Mr. Zhou seems very anxious. I heard that Mr. Zhou hasn't been home for several months. He works nearly 20 hours a day. When he is tired, he uses repair fluid. He is so busy that he doesn't even shave. Mr. Zhou used to attach great importance to his personal image. So I think Mr. Zhou may be under a lot of pressure. It is possible that Mr. Zhou and his team have concealed some information. The aliens are not as powerful as the outside world claims. Our situation is also very dangerous. Hezin said in a deep voice. Zubin fell into deep thought. He felt that what Hezin said was right. During this period, the country has been downplaying the influence of aliens. Of course, it has not promoted that aliens are vulnerable. Instead, it has been promoting that aliens are powerful, but not so powerful that they cannot be resisted. As long as you work hard, you can defeat aliens. But Zubin has personally experienced the power of aliens. At this time, the aliens are like the sword of Damocles, hanging over the heads of humans, and may fall at any time. Ordinary people don't know, but Zhou Yang must know, so he doesn't say it, but Zhou Yang is working frantically, which is the proof. Well, these things are not what we can worry about. Only by doing our own things well can we reduce the pressure on Mr. Zhou and others, Zubin said. Hezin nodded and stopped talking about it. After a long journey, the two finally arrived at Uranus. Going there, a huge light blue planet appeared. Be careful, the pressure inside Uranus is very high. According to the data, it is speculated that the pressure inside Uranus may be 4 million times that of the Earth. This has exceeded the carrying capacity of Zhu, so always pay attention to the load situation. Once the warning line is reached, evacuate immediately. Do you understand? Zubin reminded. Uranus, like Saturn, is a gas planet. The so-called gas planet is not like the Earth, which has a complete sphere. Its interior is full of gas and liquid, which is pulled by its own pressure and cannot escape, thus forming a planetary structure. Like Uranus, the interior is composed of a large amount of hydrogen sulfide gas. Without oxygen, it is impossible to survive. Moreover, the temperature is extremely low and the pressure is extremely high. In short, the environment of Uranus is extremely harsh, and it is not possible for humans to survive. Master, I speculate that the alien spacecraft we are looking for should not be on the surface of Uranus, but maybe on the satellite of Uranus. He's analyzed. Uranus is not like Saturn, which has an asteroid ring belt. It has satellites like the Earth, and there are quite a few, a total of 27. Kurosawa's carrier-based aircraft is very likely to be docked on one of the planets. After all, Uranus itself is not suitable for survival. Zubin nodded. He also thought so. While quickly approaching Uranus, he said, then let's start with the satellite in front. In front of the two, a brown satellite much smaller than the moon appeared. Some of these satellites are formed by the escaped matter of Uranus, and some may be passing asteroids captured by the gravity of Uranus, but no matter which one, it is desolate. The two of them were very fast and quickly arrived at the first satellite. The diameter of the satellite is about 2,000 kilometers. The surface is irregular, and there is no atmosphere. It orbits Uranus alone. The two did not think much, and broke into the orbit of this satellite. Separate, you go left, and I go right, Zubin said in a deep voice. Heezen nodded, and the two of them separated immediately, one to the left and the other to the right, to search the surface of the satellite. With a diameter of 2,000 kilometers, the satellite is not big. At the speed of Zhu, it can circle the satellite once a second. But to search for carrier-based aircraft, they have to slow down. At the same time, they are afraid that Kurosawa will cover up the carrier-based aircraft, so the search must be more detailed and the speed must be even slower. Heezen maintained a speed of 800 km per hour, passing over the surface of the satellite, and with the help of the Zhu's eyepiece, he conducted a detailed search of the surface. After searching for a few minutes, there was no discovery. Heezen was about to ask Zubin if he had found anything, but Zubin's noisy and intermittent voice suddenly sounded in the communicator. Heezen, there are enemies. Run away. Heezen's face changed instantly, and he hurriedly asked Zubin what happened. But the communication has been intermittent, because the two are in different directions of the satellite, separated by the satellite, and the electromagnetic waves cannot be directly transmitted without being transferred. Damn it. Heezen cursed inwardly and instantly turned into a stream of light, heading to the other side of the satellite. Chapter 396 Send message. In 1 second, Heezen had already arrived at the other side of the satellite. With a glance, Heezen locked onto two shadows near the satellite orbit in the distance. As the eyepiece scanned and locked onto them, the details of the two shadows appeared in front of Heezen. These were two tall figures, covered in black armor, just like the Iron Man in the movie, with some decorative and complex carvings on the armor. Aliens. Heezen's heart was pounding, and he immediately shouted, "Master, where are you?" The intelligence system was also quickly searching for Zubin in space, but it didn't find him. Heezen speculated that Zubin might have left. At the speed of Zhu, 1 second is 12,000 kilometers. From the previous communication to Heezen's arrival, in just 2 or 3 seconds, Zubin might have rushed out more than 30,000 kilometers, which was beyond the visual range of Zhu. At this moment, the two shadows in front also instantly discovered Heezen, turned around instantly, paused, drew out a scimitar, and rushed over like lightning. So fast. Heezen's heart skipped a beat. The opponent's speed must be faster than Zhu. In an instant, time seemed to freeze. With full concentration, Heezen barely caught the opponent's movements. The two mechas slashed out with scimitars at the same time. I can't dodge. Heezen also had a lot of combat experience. According to his estimation, it was impossible to completely dodge the attacks of the two. At least the attack of one of them could not be avoided. The energy shield on Heezen's shoulder was instantly activated, and his body was twisted forcefully. In a flash, a black mecha passed by Heezen's feet and slashed into the air. The remaining black mecha, however, slashed the energy shield accurately with the scimitar in its hand. It was not that he slashed accurately, but that Heezen had expected it accurately. He used the energy shield to accurately block the opponent's attack. The scimitar slashed hard on the energy shield, and the light blue energy shield was instantly torn apart. But the opponent's attack stagnated. For Heezen, this was enough. Kill. While blocking the attack, the laser sword in his left hand had already slipped into Heezen's hand. The laser sword was activated, and with a roar from Heezen, it chopped towards the waist of the black mecha like lightning. With a puff, the laser sword chopped fiercely on the opponent's waist. The light flashed, and the laser sword seemed to chop on the alloy. The black armor on the opponent's body also had amazing protection. With a bang, under the huge force, the black mecha was directly chopped apart by Heezen. And Heezen, under the reaction force, also flew backwards horizontally. In the battle in the universe, any force is mutual. While chopping the opponent, the force on oneself is also the same. However, Heezen has used this reaction force to quickly distance himself. He raised his right arm, and the laser gun on his arm instantly locked onto another black mecha and fired directly. The speed of the laser beam is much faster than that of the mecha. However, the opponent's reaction was also very fast, as if he had anticipated it in advance. He maneuvered his body at a small angle and barely avoided the laser beam bullet. Being able to make such a maneuver at such a speed shows that the maneuverability of this black mecha is far superior to that of the Zhou Yang. A round of confrontation lasts less than a second, but it is extremely dangerous. Once the mecha is damaged, it will be a sure death. At this moment, Zubin's voice suddenly sounded in Heezen's communication channel. Zubin's voice was very urgent, saying, "Heezen, don't fight. Go quickly. They have a signal shielding system. Rush out and send the message back. That is more important." Heezen's heart trembled, and he woke up instantly. The victory or defeat of the battle is not important at all. The discovery of aliens on Uranus is the information itself that is important. Uranus is 2.6 billion kilometers away from the Earth. At the speed of electromagnetic waves, it takes more than 2 hours to transmit the signal back to the Earth. But no matter how far or near, at least it can be transmitted. And now, according to Zubin, the opponent's mecha has a signal shielding device, which directly shields the signal, and it cannot be transmitted, even if it wants to. The only way is to rush out of the signal shielding range. The intelligent program reminded at the right time. A large number of high-frequency electromagnetic waves have been detected. It should be a signal shielding device. The range is unknown. Heezen came back to his senses, and the two black mechas on the opposite side also regrouped and came over again. At this moment, a laser beam shot from a distance. Looking carefully, he saw a figure coming quickly from thousands of kilometers away. It was a Zhou Yang. Behind this Zhou Yang, there was another black mecha chasing after it. "Heezen, I will hold them back, you go." Zubin shouted loudly. Heezen noticed that Zubin's speed was obviously much faster than normal. Obviously, he turned on the full power state. This is ready for a fight to the death. But, Heezen hesitated. Zubin attacked the two black mechas in succession to block their attacks, and said, "There is no but, otherwise no one can leave." As he spoke, Zubin had already come close, and the laser sword in his hand spun out, his signature skill, the Walls of Death. The two black mechas were forced to temporarily give up chasing Heezen and carefully avoid him. "Master!" Heezen roared in reluctance and quickly headed towards the Earth. A black mecha stopped immediately and chased after Heezen. "You bastards! Grandpa is not dead yet." Zubin was stabbed, leaving a 1 centimeter deep scar on his shoulder. He rushed towards the black mecha at a high speed, forcing him to stop and resist. Zubin, who was fighting to the death, burst out with amazing fighting power. No matter which black mecha wanted to leave, he would desperately intercept it. But the price was heavy. In just 5 seconds, the mecha on Zubin had been split open. The extreme cold instantly froze Zubin. But at the moment of death, Zubin's eyes were still wide open, staring at the direction of the earth, his eyes full of attachment and reluctance. He also has a family, a wife, a lover, and parents, but at this moment, he fought for the country and the earth, and he would never regret it until his death. On the other side, Zubin won 5 seconds for Hezin. In 5 seconds, at full speed, Hezin rushed to full 60,000 kilometers. The intelligent program showed that it was still in a high-frequency interference state. At this time, the intelligent program suddenly said, "Colonel Zhu died. Master." Hezin burst into tears and gritted her teeth and said, "Turn on full power for me." The intelligent program was silent for a moment, and in an instant, Zhu and Yuan burst into an incredible speed, exceeding 20,000 kilometers per second. 2 seconds later, the intelligent program suddenly said, "The interference signal has disappeared. Send a message." Hezin said, "The message has been sent." The intelligent program said. Hezin suddenly stopped and turned around. She had a strong intuition that the enemy was approaching. There was no escape. At a distance of 2.6 billion kilometers, no one could save herself. What a pity. There is still a piece of land in my ancestral grave in my hometown. Hezin turned her head and looked towards the direction of the earth, but could not see anything. Hezin turned around, took out 2 swords, and killed without hesitation. Chapter 397. Enough time. On Earth, at the military command center, hundreds of staff members were busy with their own work. At this moment, there was a sudden alarm. What's going on? The on-duty person in charge was a major general named Liu, who asked immediately. Immediately, a staff member said, "We have received a message from Major Hezin, and the information is being received." Hezin. Liu's face changed slightly. Didn't Hezin accept Zhou Yang's order to go to Uranus to search for the carrier-based aircraft of the Oma civilization? Didn't he send back a message at this time? Did he find the carrier-based aircraft? But why did the alarm sound? The message sent back will have different prompts depending on the situation. The alarm sound means that the message sent back is an alarm message. What is the content of the message? Liu asked hurriedly. Open it. Everyone looked at the big screen at the first time. A photo appeared on the big screen. In the endless space, there were 2 figures standing in black mechas. At the same time, there was a text message. An unknown enemy was found, and it was powerful. Colonel Zubin has died, and I'm ready to die with him. The atmosphere on the scene seemed to be suddenly stagnant. Liu's face changed drastically. It took him 3 full seconds to come back to his senses. He shouted loudly, "Quick, sound the alarm, level 1 alert, notify all military bases around the world, and immediately enter combat readiness." At this time, Zhou Yang was at the lunar base. The original plan to build a residential area or something on the lunar base has now been abandoned. The huge lunar base is filled with various experimental equipment. At this time, Zhou Yang was staring at an experiment. The prototype of the main source magnetic gravitational field communication technology experiment has been made and is now being tested. It is planned to send a message from the moon to Mars. If the equipment works normally, Mars will receive the signal immediately. Unlike before, it took nearly 5 minutes to use electromagnetic wave communication. Mars will also send a message back immediately after receiving the message. "Mr. Zhao, it's ready and can be sent at any time." Zhou Yang nodded and said, "Send it." The message was sent immediately. Just the next moment, a message appeared on the screen. Received. In an instant, the staff present cheered excitedly. Success. Using this technology, it is truly possible to send messages in the universe at the millisecond level. Zhou Yang was also very excited. The various systems on the Pangu class battleship were put together piece by piece like a puzzle. It was not far from the official completion. At this moment, Fuxi suddenly appeared beside Zhou Yang out of thin air and said in a deep voice, "Sir, something happened." Zhou Yang was stunned and asked hurriedly, "What happened?" The cheering staff around him also suddenly became quiet, with a look of confusion. Fuxi hesitated for a moment and said, "Over on Uranus, Colonel Zubin and Major Hezin encountered an unknown enemy. Now, they should have died. Now the news sent back from Uranus was 2 hours ago. Zubin and Hezin might have died long ago." "What?" Zhou Yang's body shook, took a deep breath, stood up straight, and asked in a deep voice, "What kind of enemy? Sacrifice is inevitable, and Zhou Yang has no time to mourn the victims. He himself cannot fall down, cannot be sad, and must think rationally from the overall situation." Fuchsie waved his hand, and a photo appeared in front of him. In space, there are two black mechas. The other researchers all gasped. Obviously, this is another alien mecha. Zhou Yang's eyes fixed, his expression became extremely solemn. He waved his hand, signaling all the researchers around him to disperse. After everyone dispersed, he said in a deep voice, "Who do you think they are?" Fuchsie said, "They should not be Kurosawa's companions. The characteristics of the mecha they are wearing are obviously different. The mechas in service of a civilization should be of the same lineage. For example, the mechas of the Oma civilization use mecha alloy, so they fit the driver very well. It is no exaggeration to say that they are like a piece of clothing. However, this black mecha in front of him looks a bit bloated. This is a completely different design style. Of course, it is also possible for a civilization to develop mechas with different functions and different characteristics." Fuchsie continued, "And we have repeatedly conducted polygraph tests on Kurosawa. What he said should be true. All his companions have been killed." Zhou Yang held his chin, thought for a moment, and said, "Do you think it could be the people of the Decident civilization?" Kurosawa said that, because of the existence of the gravity zone, the speed of time here is different from that outside the gravity zone. 30 years here may only take a few months outside. At the beginning, the army of the Decident civilization did not dare to cross the gravity zone, or the order they received was to block the gravity zone and prevent the Oma civilization from completing the evacuation plan. But maybe after a few months, they received a new order to cross the gravity zone to see the situation on this side. So these three mechas may be the army of the Decident civilization. Apart from this, Zhou Yang could not find a more reasonable explanation. Fuchsie nodded and said, "Sir, your speculation is very likely, but what should we do next?" Zhou Yang pulled a chair over and sat down, thinking. The construction of the Pangu class battleship has been very fast. It can be said that all the manpower and material resources in the world have been mobilized, and it has been built crazily day and night. But there are still some related supporting systems that have not been completed. At the earliest, Zhou Yang thinks it will take until the end of the year, that is, the end of December, to complete the construction. At that time, the Earth will have the real power to resist. A Pangu class battleship has strong combat effectiveness. And according to the strategy Zhou Yang said before, research and construction are carried out at the same time. At the same time, there are 4 Pangu class battleships under construction at the construction base in the Taihang Mountains. According to the plan, 12 ships are planned to be built at once in the early stage. The first batch of 12 Pangu class battleships should be enough. After that, they will be slowly upgraded and renovated to build more powerful interstellar battleships, and even use the Star Core to build a Titan class battleship. But everything takes time. What Zhou Yang was most worried about before was that the aliens would not give the Earth time to develop. Now, aliens have appeared. That's right. Zhou Yang suddenly had an idea and said, "Think about it. These 3 mechas may be the nature of the advance team or the reconnaissance team. They may stay with us for several months, but to the large Decident force outside the gravity zone, only a few minutes may have passed. This is the opportunity. Even if the Decident force outside receives further orders, it may be several months or even longer for us. Before the end of the year, we should be able to complete 1 Pangu class battleship. This Decident army was originally intended to intercept Kurosawa and his men. It should be just a small force. A Pangu class battleship should be enough for a battle. By the time they react and mobilize a large force to come over, several years may have passed here. Time, there is definitely enough time." Zhou Yang instantly felt like something was catching up. Chapter 398, Preparations for War. Fuchsie nodded. Zhou Yang's speculation was completely tenable. It can be said that the emergence of the gravity zone in the solar system gave humans a chance to play a time difference. "Sir, the meeting of the emergency committee," Fuchsie suddenly said. Zhou Yang came back to his senses and said, "Come in." The holographic projection above his head slowly unfolded like a light curtain, turning the surroundings into a huge conference room. In the conference room, all 7 committee members have arrived. Mr. Zhou, you should have received the news about Uranus. The person in charge of country Z asked. As soon as the voice fell, seen next to him hurriedly asked, Mr. Zhou, what do you think? From a scientific point of view, managing the Earth and doing politics are familiar to several people, but the things they are encountering now, dealing with aliens, have long been beyond their knowledge, and they don't know how to deal with them. At this time, Zhou Yang's opinion is very important. Zhou Yang did not hesitate to repeat his speculation. The expressions of the 7 people present became more and more solemn. Zhou Yang's speculation shows that the aliens have already hit their doorstep. It is foreseeable that in the next 6 months or even a few months, we will have a direct war with aliens, so I think we can start preparing for war now, Zhou Yang said in a deep voice. Everyone's breathing stagnated. Mr. Zhou, are we really going to start? The person in charge of country Z said in a deep voice. The other people also looked very serious. Preparing for war is not something that can be said with words. War is fought with logistics. Soldiers have to be prepared for everything from eating, drinking, defecating, and urinating on the battlefield. All equipment must be inspected and prepared. Any problem in any link will directly affect the outcome of the war. Especially now that we are fighting a space war, it is a war that is completely unfamiliar to everyone. How to allocate logistics is a brand new challenge. Zhou Yang didn't rush to speak, and suddenly he felt a little irritable. In the past, Zhou Yang was a pure scientist who didn't have to consider politics at all, but now it's not possible. There are so many people doing research and development under his command, and he has to allocate and handle everything well. And this is not over yet. Although the identity of the emergency committee is respected, the pressure it bears is also huge. For example, now, it is easy for Zhou Yang to nod, but this nod represents a great significance. All logistics systems will be mobilized, millions, tens of millions of people, and all of them may be mobilized, because of his small head. The resources and strength consumed are countless. Zhou Yang suddenly remembered a sentence, if you want to wear the crown, you must bear its weight. Being in this position, the pressure that can be borne, is simply unimaginable for ordinary people. Now Zhou Yang hopes to return to life like before. Spend more time with his family, and do some research when he has nothing to do. But now, Zhou Yang has not been home for several months, and has not seen his daughter and wife. And Chen Royan has never contacted Zhou Yang on his own initiative, just for fear of disturbing himself. Mr. Zhou, Xin shouted again. Zhou Yang came back to his senses, took a deep breath, and nodded vigorously. Several people looked at each other, and said no more. This day should be remembered by history. On the highway, a truck was running fast. The driver Wang Hui yawned and signaled his wife and the co-pilot to pass him the tea. His wife was called Yang Mei. She handed him a large cup of strong tea and said, honey, how about we take out a loan and buy a self-driving car? We've been doing a lot of business recently, so if we work hard it should be enough. What do you mean by enough? Wang Hui curled his lips, lit a cigarette, and said, we just paid off the loan for this car half a year ago, and we just bought a house, and we still have to pay off the mortgage. A self-driving by truck costs at least 500,000. You can do the math, and how much we will have to pay back a month. Yang Mei sighed lightly and said, I'm just worried that your body can't take it, and that the money you earn is not enough to pay for your treatment. What's there to be afraid of? We have medical equipment now. There is no disease that can't be cured. As long as we earn money, we are not afraid of any serious illness. Wang Hui, however, looked indifferent. Yang Mei curled her lips and said, that's true, but isn't medical treatment free? I heard that Leo Kyan from our logistics company was diagnosed with cancer and spent more than 100,000 yuan to cure it. Wang Hui waved his hand and said, okay, I can only drive a car. I'm not like others who can go to some virtual space to make money. Our child is in high school now. Let's work hard to pay off the mortgage after the child graduates from college. When the time comes, we can find a wife for the child. Then we can relax completely and enjoy a good life. Haven't you always wanted to travel? When the time comes, we can buy a virtual warehouse and travel in the virtual world. Yang Mei chuckled and complained, you too, it's the end of the world, and you're still thinking about buying a house. People on the internet say that house prices will fall sharply soon. Wan Hui glared and said, what are you talking about? If aliens attack, I won't live in the house. As he was speaking, a speed reduction cone suddenly appeared in front of him. At the end of the cone, there were several police cars parked. Wan Hui's face changed slightly, and he cursed. Why are there people checking cars here? The traffic police in front of him had already waved the indicator light to signal Wan Hui to stop. Wan Hui slowed down slowly, and the truck slowly stopped. A traffic police came over and saluted Wan Hui. Wan Hui shuddered. What he feared most was the salute of the traffic police. Just as he was about to speak, the traffic police smiled and said, Comrade, please move to the emergency lane. The section of the highway ahead is temporarily closed. Please wait for a while. Wan Hui thought that they were checking his car, but it turned out that the road was closed. He breathed a sigh of relief and pulled the truck to the side. Then he asked curiously, Comrade Police, why is the road closed? The traffic police directed the truck behind to stop and then said, don't ask, it's a special situation. Special situation? Wan Hui was stunned and wanted to ask again, but was stopped by Yang Mei. Why do you care why they close the road? Since the road is closed, there must be a reason. Why ask so many questions? Yang Mei said unhappily. Wan Hui pouted and had to give up, getting off the car and moving around. At the back, a long convoy had already been parked. Since many people are now active in virtual space, most of the trucks on the road are mainly responsible for the transportation of materials. As they are all truck drivers, they naturally chatted with each other. Why are you blocking the road? I'm driving a green pass, and I'm in a hurry. Wan Hui complained. The driver next to him said, it's probably a big shot traveling. Wan Hui snorted and said, it's such a wide road, it's not impossible to drive on it. No matter how high your official position is, just drive your way. Why block our road? As he was speaking, a police car suddenly appeared from a distance with a long siren. But what was even more shocking was that behind this police car, there was a whole convoy of military trucks. The military truck in the front was particularly long, and the cargo behind it was covered with camouflage canvas, but the shape showed that it was a missile. A huge missile that was dozens of meters long. And there was more than one after another, a total of more than a dozen. Behind it, there were a large number of military vehicles, and there was no end in sight. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 399 High Speed Attack. The traffic police at the scene stood at attention and saluted. But Wan Hui and other drivers were completely shocked. Because it was not just a few cars, but a super long convoy, maintaining a speed of 40 km per hour, from missile vehicles to various radar vehicles, command vehicles, troop transport trucks, and even medical vehicles and cooking vehicles. It was so huge that it took half an hour and there was no end in sight. So many soldiers, where are they going? Wan Hui was stunned. Isn't it going to be a war? A driver next to him said. That's right, didn't the news say there were aliens or something? Don't talk nonsense. If aliens really attack, the world will be destroyed. Many drivers talked about it, but no one could explain it. However, this kind of formation, you can tell at a glance that something big must have happened. At this moment, Yang Mei suddenly pointed to the top of her head and said, husband, look at the sky. Wan Hui looked up blankly and saw the sky, 3 fireballs like meteors streaking through the sky and falling from the sky. And what's more coincidental is that the direction in which the 3 fireballs fell was actually in his direction. The 3 fireballs were too fast. There was no time to think about it. There was a loud bang, and the earthquake shook the mountain. One of the fireballs crashed hundreds of meters away from Wan Hui and others. Dust and smoke rose into the sky. The air wave formed by the collision swept the dust in all directions. The wind was howling. Wan Hui's eyes went black, and he was swept by the airwave and flew backwards. It seemed like a few seconds, and it seemed like a year. His ears were full of tinnitus. Wan Hui slowly opened his eyes. In the distance, dust was rising into the sky, covering the sky and the sun. All around, there were mud and gravel falling from the sky. Many people were lying on the ground, struggling in pain. This scene was like the end of the world. At this moment, a soldier in military uniform appeared in front of Wan Hui, with his mouth open, shouting something loudly. Wan Hui shook his head fiercely before he heard what the soldier was saying. "Uncle, are you okay?" the soldier shouted anxiously. Behind him, the convoy had stopped. A large number of soldiers grabbed their weapons and jumped out of the cars. With loud shouts, all the soldiers were urgently gathering. Wan Hui shook his head to indicate that he was fine. He stood up quickly and ran to the front of his truck in a hurry. He opened the door and saw Yang Mei covering her head in the car. Wan Hui hurriedly asked, "Wife, are you okay?" Yang Mei shook her head. Wan Hui breathed a sigh of relief and almost collapsed on the ground. The convoy stopped completely. 3 kilometers ahead, in a military jeep, Wu Changjin, the commander of the 305th Missile Division, noticed the falling fireball at the first time, especially after noticing that the fireball landed next to the highway. He immediately ordered the team to stop. "Report what's going on behind quickly," Wu Changjin ordered, grabbed the telescope, and got out of the car, looked around, climbed directly onto the roof of the truck next to him, and looked at where the fireball landed. 3 kilometers. The telescope can see very clearly. The falling fireball was like dropping an aerial bomb. It can be clearly seen that the shock wave formed a shock ring with a diameter of several hundred meters. The motorcade on the highway and the civilian cars avoiding on both sides were all within the shock wave range. The scene was in chaos. "Quick, notify the medical team, tell them to turn around and rescue the wounded quickly and give priority to rescuing the people." "That's the 3rd Regiment, right? Where's Gao Xian'ai? Tell him to maintain order at the scene for me, and then notify the local government, report the situation, and let them organize rescue forces and rush to rescue as soon as possible." Wu Changjin issued orders one by one. The chief of staff also climbed onto the roof of the truck, looking at the crash site in the distance, frowned and said, "What is it, a meteor?" Wu Changjin shook his head and said, "I can't see it clearly." The crash site was filled with dust and smoke, and the situation inside could not be seen clearly for the time being. After thinking for a while, he said, "Let Gao Xian'ai send someone to take a look." Near the crash site, a military jeep sped over, and a colonel with a determined look hurriedly got off the car and took a look at the scene. Many people were injured, especially ordinary people. Many were swept up by the shockwave. Some crashed into cars, and some were thrown off the highway. They all suffered varying degrees of injuries. On the side of the convoy, a troop transport truck was directly overturned on the ground, and many soldiers were also injured. Everyone. The 3rd Battalion organizes rescue. The 1st and 2nd Battalions are on guard and maintain order. Gao Xian'ai took the walkie-talkie and quickly gave orders. At the same time, Gao Xian'ai waved to a captain in the distance and said, "Li Dashan, take a squad and follow me." Li Dashan saluted, looked around, and shouted, "3rd Squad Leader, call your people and follow me." A squad of 12 people immediately gathered and followed Gao Xian'ai, climbing over the guardrail and heading to the crash site in the distant field. The distance of hundreds of meters was soon reached. But when they were getting close, Li Dashan suddenly shouted, "Captain, there seems to be someone." "Someone?" Gao Xian'ai was startled, and when he looked carefully, he could vaguely see that in the floating dust, a tall figure seemed to flash by. "Raise your hands and make a fist." The soldiers behind him stopped instantly, raised their guns, and went on alert. At this time, a gust of wind blew, and the dust and smoke 30 meters away were blown away. The situation at the impact point could also be seen. The impact formed a large pit with a diameter of more than 10 meters, and the soil rolled up. From Gao Xian'ai's angle, he couldn't see how deep it was, but he could imagine that it would not be shallow. At this time, at the edge of the impact pit, a tall black figure was slowly turning around and facing Gao Xian'ai and others. He was covered with black metal armor, and the position of his eyes was emitting white light. There were undulating carvings on his body. "What is that?" Lee Dashan exclaimed. Gao Xianai's face also changed drastically. He had never seen this thing before him. "Captain, is it a mecha?" The regiment instructor who followed said blankly. This thing in front of him looked like a mecha. Gao Xianai nodded and said, "But our mechas are not like this." At this moment, the black mecha took out a sci-fi rifle from his back and pulled the trigger at everyone without hesitation. Whoosh, a hot laser beam shot out. Gao Xianai, who was the first to be hit, was hit by the laser beam head-on. With a puff, Gao Xianai looked forward and saw that his abdomen was completely pierced with a huge black hole. Looking down in disbelief, Gao Xianai opened his mouth to shout something, but he couldn't shout anymore and fell to the ground. "Captain, quick, attack. Da da da." Lee Dashan roared, and the assault rifle in his hand sprayed out anger. Dense bullets fell on the black mecha, sparks burst out, and clanking. It was useless. Chapter 400 Reinforcement arrive. 3 kilometers away, Wu Changjin also observed Gao Xianai's actions through a telescope and saw Gao Xianai approaching the crash site with his men. At this moment, the dust and smoke dispersed and a black mecha appeared. The moment he saw the black mecha, Wu Changjin's heart seemed to be grabbed tightly and he was instantly extremely nervous. This time, he received an order from his superiors to urgently transfer on a large scale. Moreover, the order was not an exercise, nor a regular troop rotation. The order received was to go to the designated location and enter a state of combat readiness. Wu Changjin knew what this order represented, that is, to prepare for war. Who is the enemy? Other countries? Looking around the world, who else is there? There is no enemy at all. Then the only enemy can only come from space, and it is aliens. Wu Changjin is the head of a division. His rank is not high, but it is definitely not low. Even if he is not high enough to know some news, he can still get some gossip and speculate some things. For example, the military command center once again sounded the first level alarm. The last time the first level alarm was sounded was the alien invasion during the groundbreaking ceremony of the lunar base. So Wu Changjin speculated that aliens might come again this time. Seeing the black mecha now, Wu Changjin's first reaction was that it was an alien. In the telescope, the black mecha took out its weapon and started to attack. With one shot, Gao Xianai was killed. Then the black mecha seemed to switch the attack state of the gun in its hand. The position of the gun head emitted light. After a short second, a larger laser beam shot out and landed in the center of Lee Dashan and others. Boom. Like a grenade, Lee Dashan and others were all blown away and fell to the ground, never getting up again. Wu Changjin was startled and came back to his senses. He shouted, "Quick, quick, contact the military command center, report the situation, and request mecha support. Order all troops to deploy defense lines on the spot. Let the 3rd Regiment go forward and attack, and separate some people to evacuate the people at the scene. Remember, give priority to the safety of the people, understand?" The order was passed down at the first time. In the long convoy, everyone got off the car and began to build a defense line. And the deputy commander of the 3rd Regiment, Zheng Bin, did not care about the death of his comrades and quickly took over the command. The 1st and 2nd Battalions use the railings on the opposite highway as the boundary and establish a defense line. No matter what, you must hold it. The 3rd Battalion, as well as the people from the kitchen and logistics team, all go and evacuate the people, and evacuate to the rear. Zheng Bin shouted loudly, his expression extremely solemn. They are the Air Defense Missile Division, and their main task is to launch missiles. The heavy weapons of the troops are all types of air defense missiles. There are almost no heavy weapons. In such a narrow place, the convoy is very long, and even if there are heavy weapons, they cannot be deployed. Therefore, now they can only use their flesh and blood to block. Wang Hui and Yang Mei met up, and Yang Mei supported Wang Hui. Wang Hui's back hurt so much from the collision just now that he had trouble walking now. "Honey, what's going on?" Yang Mei asked blankly. Wang Hui shook his head. How could he know? At this moment, the soldiers around him began to move, climbing over the railings and rushing to the opposite highway. Then, the sound of gunfire rang out, mixed with the explosion of a single-person shoulder-fired rocket launcher. This scene scared Wang Hui a lot. What's going on? Is there a war? Yang Mei was also scared and pale. At this time, two soldiers ran over and looked at Wang Hui. One soldier came forward and carried Wang Hui on his back without saying anything, saying, "Uncle, hurry up, I'll take you down." Another soldier pulled Yang Mei and left. Wang Hui looked back and found that there were still a large number of soldiers rushing towards them to help them evacuate. "What about the truck?" Yang Mei shouted. Wang Hui cursed. "It's time. You old woman are still thinking about the truck. Your life is about to be lost." Yang Mei was immediately scared and dared not speak. Under the guidance of the soldiers, she climbed over the railing and slid down the highway. Soldiers had already pushed open the guardrail and guided them to evacuate. At the same time, the black mecha shot Li Dashan and others and looked up in the direction of the highway. On this side, the people of the 3rd Regiment had come to the railing and launched an attack without hesitation. Countless bullets, rocket launchers, and grenades flooded the black mecha. But it was useless. Whether it was bullets or rocket launchers, they could not hurt the black mecha at all. At this moment, the black mecha began to fight back and disappeared in a flash. But the next moment, a sonic boom cloud appeared out of thin air like a fighter jet breaking through a sonic boom and spread rapidly. The violent shockwave rolled up the soil as if there was an air wall and smashed into the soldiers of the 1st and 2nd battalions. Next to the railing, hundreds of soldiers, before they had time to hear the sound of the sonic boom, were swept away by the shockwave and flew backwards. Moreover, under the huge impact force, everyone was thrown away, their bodies were exaggeratedly twisted, and they died on the spot. As for the military vehicles parked on the highway, they were directly overturned, as if they were made of paper. The huge sonic boom sound was slowly transmitted, and within a kilometer radius, all the soldiers covered their ears in pain and fell to the ground. On the other side of the highway, 500 meters away, a black mecha appeared in the air. 3 kilometers away, Wu Changjin also covered his ears with a painful face and was shocked and speechless. This is a mecha, an epoch-making weapon. An acceleration, just breaking the huge shockwave of the sonic boom, can destroy everything. Such a force is not something that an ordinary army with hot weapons can resist. The soldier carrying Wang Hui also fell to the ground in pain. Wang Hui covered his ears and struggled in pain. A few meters away, Yang Mei also fell to the ground, closed his eyes tightly, and was directly stunned by the huge sound wave. Wang Hui ignored his own pain and struggled to crawl over, shaking Yang Mei's shoulders, worried and anxious. At this time, the black mecha above his head also looked at the ground, raised the gun in his hand, and the gun head began to accumulate power again. A laser shell was about to fall. Wang Hui hugged Yang Mei tightly, looking at the black figure above his head, his eyes full of despair. At this moment, a golden figure suddenly appeared, like a golden light, tearing the sky. With a bang, the golden figure and the black mecha collided. "Asshole!" In the Zuanian, the driver roared, and the laser sword slashed the waist of the black mecha fiercely, pushing the black mecha at an incredible speed and disappearing from Wang Hui's sight. Boom. The two mechas tilted and crashed into the ground. The ground seemed to be made of paper, and a huge gap of more than 1,000 meters appeared. Dust rose into the sky. In the distance, Wu Changjin waved his fist excitedly. The reinforcement finally arrived. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.